brand new. I have no idea. So
Wow. Well, at least you got room on it if it's brand new.
it's brand new. It's got plenty of room. That's much better. I can see your faces now. That's good.
Yeah, isn't it so?
So you're in charge of.
I'm not in
Chasing
charge of it. I'm not in charge of anything. I just, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
I-
what are you gonna do when it's your turn to talk?
Well,
Something then, right?
I'm not sure. Well, who? Hello.
You're gonna be eating man too.
You just about ended up in that Elks.
Almost ended up in the Elk.
Okay, so she finds Amaryllis easy somehow. I don't.
Does everybody know that
Okay.
we closed?
Oh, no,
No.
congratulations,
New
that's
neighbors,
good,
thanks.
good for you.
Yep.
Well, that's
It's all
probably a
done.
load off your head.
It's good to get it over with.
Yeah.
Good.
Get it done.
They probably aren't gonna do anything with it right away.
Then again, we
Okay,
don't
nice.
know that.
Yeah.
You don't know what's gonna happen with pasture, you're that end.
No, he's already talking to Paul Jessup about breaking off a couple of chunks in the bottom. So,
Yeah.
but he's got your number. Did he call you?
No.
Okay.
Well, and if he did, we won't recognize the number, so go to
It's
voicemail
yeah, it's
probably.
a weird number like 802 or something.
Yeah.
But when you're ready to start, I think we should kind of give the date. It's nice to have the year anyway, so that know what we're doing, so.
What day is it?
Well, it doesn't have to
January
be the
10th.
day. 2026.
January 10th.
Right.
26. Yeah.
January 10th today. Yeah.
I know that because I was reminded that Trudy had a birthday yesterday.
Yeah, that's
She made herself a cherry pie for her birthday. It's amazing how good I make out.
Lucky
on her
you.
birthday.
Well, I think we all know why this doesn't happen. Why it's hard to make this happen. We all lament that the old folks didn't ever do this, or that we didn't do it for them. But nobody wants to do this.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
I bet they didn't want to as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get
It's just
it
hard
done.
to say, okay, we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's like all those people that we keep saying, we need to go to dinner sometime. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, amazingly.
Life
Exactly.
just clicks along and
Yeah.
gets filled up.
Well, yeah, days fill up, it's just crazy.
It's true, it's true, so. Well, do you feel confident? I should turn my.
I'm not confident in anything. It's recording right now, so we'll see.
So we got down this January 10th, 2026, and we're just getting together just to kind of reminisce things and anything that comes to mind from our youth or from a story that might not have got told or a story that caught told and everybody has their own perspective on it.
There's probably several of those.
Julie and I used to listen to her tell stories, and it's completely different than I have.
Always.
I can agree with that.
I liked her
Yeah.
side.
I've said that very thing to my mom before
Oh my
about some
goodness.
of her stories.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Julie came by it honest.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, Dad, he always added flavor to a story.
One thing I remember and really appreciated about Dad was not only was he a wonderful storyteller, but whoever he was telling the story about, he could mimic them like crazy.
Oh,
And I loved when
He'd
talked
sound more
about
like Max Gemino than Max. did.
Gemino, yeah. But he just would get into character, and he could just sound just like whoever he was telling
Yeah.
the story on, and it was awesome. We enjoyed that when we
well,
get him.
who did he run? I think it was Marion Ganther, who we had working for us. But was it Shaughnessy that ended up with her property or something. Anyway, he had some kind of run-in with Shaughnessy, and he did the Irish accent. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember what the run-ins was.
I don't remember the run-in, but I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear him saying, "I'm telling you what, David."
Yeah. Our Davey has that gift too. It's amazing how
He
can-
does.
He
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
How he used to tell a story. I make your camera spin around. You don't need to. He used to tell a story about the old man Zitto down there and some of his interactions with the Italians. And one, they had a hay transaction at one point in time, and they wanted to back out on it. Dad was going to buy some hay from them, and they were going to sell it. He decided not to, and he needed the hay, and didn't appreciate them backing out. The old man Zitto, I don't know which name it would have been, said, "Give it the boy the hay." And so now when Titus, he'll call up and he'll say, I'm a mad at you." I think of Dad.
That Italian accent.
Why are you mad at me? I don't know why.
That's pretty cute.
I think that was John Senior.
Yeah, probably.
Was granddad was John, I'm sure. Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, I know that my kids have asked a couple of times, and I know at Christmas actually, some of them talk to you, but they always want to know the story of how it is that Marie and Spence have the little cabin, and Dave and Jen had the big house, and how did that all come about?
How did that happen? Well, I can give you my version. My version is that the grandpa and grandma, that would be Spencer Smith Hulls and Inez, came here in 1908, and they lived in a stone house on Ricketts Road somewhere there. There's 8 or 10 stone houses on Ricketts Road, so I don't know which one. During that time, they had acquired the home place, which I believe was 40 or 60 acres, which is where your house is. And they hired Mr. Snow to build the house. And that house was built by hand during that time. 1912, the Mercantile in Hamilton burned down. So Granddad and Grandma came here and actually lived in the house for a while. And after farming for a few years, I don't know how long or when that was, they moved to Divide and ran a general store in Divide, Montana. And so then Marie and Spence lived in what's now Tim and Trudy's house. And then Spencer Smith took ill, and they got the message back that we need to come home. We're not doing well. And so they built the cabin. Spence and Marie built the cabin down there, the log cabin, so that they could come from Divide and move back into that house. Well, his health turned worse quicker than they expected, and they ended up going to Havre to stay with Grandpa Spence's sister, our Aunt Connie. And I think that he passed while they were in Havre. Then Inez came after that and lived with Spence and Marie until she passed here. That's how I have it, but whether that's accurate or not, I'm not 100% sure.
I wouldn't amend it at all, except for just the date on the cabin is probably was when we were picking the floor up, we found newspapers underneath 1937. So it was 36 or 37 that or maybe both, that they were constructing that
Sometime
house.
in that time period.
in that couple of years. So
Grandpa told me 36, and we found a 36 quarter sticking on top of one of the.
yeah.
36.
So, yeah, and I think you're, I'd subscribe to Dan's recollection of
Yeah.
that.
Didn't you say Uncle Dan helped him get the logs for the cabin?
That was my understanding, and
Yes.
they used to throw out, you know, like they had like $700 in that building to build it.
Yeah.
Remember 'em saying,
I remember when we put a roof on it, and the roof cost more than the whole house.
yeah, and that distressed
That
Grandma.
distressed Grandma terribly.
Mom always told a story about Grandma being that there being some rub between Grandma and Grandpa, that they had gone together and they had picked a load of logs, and that when the logs got to the place to start getting put up, Grandma always claimed that they'd switched the logs and Grandpa shouldn't have accepted that load because she didn't like the logs that they ended up having on the place, that she claimed it wasn't the same.
She complained to me often that the logs weren't uniform on the corners.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Grandma or Peggy.
Grandma.
I remember Peggy saying that she wanted to square those corners up, and I had a fit. I said, "That's what makes that cabin so cool."
And that's I told that to Grandma. I said that's what makes this place so special, is because it's that way. It's beautiful.
yeah, that I don't remember that originating with Mom.
Well,
I liked them too.
me and your mom had a discussion one time about it, and because it was when she was here, and this is what this cabin is, just awesome the way it is. Leave that alone.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, I guess I didn't remember that Marie wasn't happy with the
Well,
logs.
it's
But
Mom's story.
that's entirely true. It's entirely possible. But I just didn't remember it.
Yeah.
She was looking for, and I don't know that Mom would even remember, and you can ask her when you see her, but there was something about the logs being checked, and she was looking for logs that weren't checked, and that when this load got out here, a bunch of them were checked, and she was fit to be tied over it. So,
So I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
I remember is Uncle Dan and Spencer, and they got some help, went and harvested the logs themselves out of the mountains. So I don't know. That's always been my belief, but
That's a good one.
yeah. So I don't.
That shows you how far things can get over
Yeah,
time. right?
exactly. How things can get crossed out.
I like that one better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was always my impression too, that Uncle Dan helped them get the logs. And if she was unhappy with him, she had to take it up with her brother.
There you go.
I wouldn't want to take anything up with Uncle Dan.
No, who would want to do that?
I remember him talking about Mr. Snow helping him too,
Yeah.
putting it together.
And Mr. Snow lived in the house right across the street from Hawkinson's, in the big white house there,
Oh, really?
where Nobles lived.
Oh,
That's
Oh,
the Snow
okay.
house. Yeah,
okay.
The Noble's place was the
was the Snow
I'll be
house.
darned.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Okay.
I
so
can
where
remember
is that?
going there as a child. I don't know how old we were, but they had the west room was the dining room, and it was fancy, and the table was set, everything. It's just was as I remember. But they had doors closed, but you could see in from the kitchen, and we weren't allowed to go in there.
It was still that way when Nobles were there.
And which house
So it
is
was
this?
set up where Tori grew up.
Oh,
Well,
Terry Noble's house down on East Side Highway.
I don't know
With
which
the biggest
house that
maple
is.
tree.
I will point it out to you
be
sometime.
the White House that's across from what is where Valley Irrigation and Cowpoke are now.
Yeah.
Okay,
This,
thank you.
this reminds me so much.
With the giant tree.
History's repeating
It's like
itself
it's
again.
bigger than the house.
Okay,
That's
yes,
it. Yeah,
that
that
one,
one.
okay.
Yeah.
We used to go into Marie and Spence's cabin, and the first thing that they always did was get the newspaper and look at the obituaries. And we'd go in and they'd say, well, got a funeral to go to, you know who died, and they'd say who died, and we wouldn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And they'd say, well, sure, it's on the place over on, they live down there, and and they'd start giving directions about, and why didn't we know him? Well,
And the history of the whole
it's
thing.
kind of like, well, I don't know him because I'm like 8.
Well, I can remember going to Sunday dinner oftentimes at Grandma Marie's, and we'd have Uncle Dan, Aunt Ruth, Ruth and Emmett,
And Ina.
Aunt Ina, and then after dinner, loading up in the car and going for a Sunday drive. And sometimes
Oh.
taking 2 cars, and you get to ride in whichever car you want. But it was,
Really?
the conversation was always, oh, this is the old such and such place, and da da da, and all of, you know,
Everyone's,
at the time when you're that age, you're amazed that they knew somebody that for 30 years. I've known them for 30 years, you know.
Yeah.
And
That
you
was a long time.
How in the world can you do that when you're 7 years old? 30 years is a long time.
I remember we'd end at one of those trips, we ended up on top of Skalkaho Pass.
Oh yeah.
One of those trips, we went to the Big Hole Battlefield before it was really improved, and
Yeah.
wandered around. The cannon was still out in the trees
Right,
at that
yeah,
point in
at that
time,
point in time.
and they had a display there, but it was just out in the weather. They had not improved that area.
It was right where it's at.
So Sunday drives were a thing, and we got in on that sometimes.
Yeah.
We always had to do it though around the cows.
I don't remember the Sunday drives at all, do you?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think I was very big, but I remember them.
Of course, I don't remember this being a cherry orchard, and I think, Danny, you do.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite recollections of Brian Sutherland is Dad hired Brian and gave him the 12 gauge. I think it's the one that I still have. And we were supposed to come over and chase the starlings away. And so we got over here, and Brian says, "Well, I'll stand in the back of the truck and you drive." Okay. I couldn't reach the clutch, and you know. And so, and I tried to push the clutch in, but it didn't
Go all the way
get
down.
all the way in. Brian's in the back of the truck. He's just climbing into the back of the truck, and I rip that thing into gear, and of course it jumps ahead. He falls down.
I can only imagine what came out of his mouth.
Yes, indeed. You can only imagine. And so he rigged up something behind my back. I don't remember what it was, a box or a pillow. It wasn't a pillow, it was something, so that I'd be forward enough on the seat that my foot would reach the ground. And then he said, "Now let it out slowly."
Well, darn you.
And he listened.
So he was really concerned about nicking up Dad's brand new gun. Fortunately, he didn't. There was no damage, but he was very concerned. So,
Well, I wish I remembered it in trees, and I'm guessing probably it was cleared out before I came along.
well, I can remember one very stubborn tree, and it was just about here where Jeff's house is, or maybe just up the road just a little bit, and they couldn't get it out with the tractor, and they pulled and they broke chains, and they just were having a terrible time. And he wrangled up some dynamite from somewhere. Kaboom! Blew that thing up. It came out then after it was all shattered.
Well, and he found that was a lot easier, and so he actually blasted
Several.
several of them. And then on 4th of July, I remember there was an old wash, galvanized wash pan, wash tub.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, out of an
And
old
the-
wash machine.
And he was going to send her into the air with like you put a firecracker underneath the coffee can and see how high it would go. Well, he used, I think, a half a stick of dynamite in that wash thing. It sent it into orbit.
Oh, yeah.
Went a long way.
Wonder somebody didn't get killed.
Yeah.
Well, that tells me that I think most of our kids liked blowing stuff up, and they came by that on us.
Really honest.
So,
Well, yeah, Dad taught us how to launch tin cans, because in those days everything came in tin cans.
Yeah,
So you'd find one tin can that just fit inside the other, another
Yeah.
tin can
Put a little
perfectly.
water in it too.
And then you put water in it, so
Yeah.
when it went in, it sealed. So you had a
Sure
good
thing,
seal. Then you poke a hole in the top, and just big enough to squeeze your firecracker down in there. And then you just light the fuse and run, and boom. Had a launch.
Now, congratulations, you've just recorded terrorist organization.
there you go.
Well, I think there was a story about firecrackers in a can to wake Jeff up one time.
Yeah, that was Danny and Doug Harmon.
I think it happened.
I'm
more than
not
once.
remembering this one.
You don't remember
I
this?
remember that. I remember the story.
Tell us, Jeff.
Well, they always said I was a sound sleeper. I didn't like to get up in the morning. I guess I still don't. But anyway, they claimed that they bought some firecrackers around the 4th, and I was refusing to get up, and the eggs were cold, and and they wanted to get the day going and stuff. So Danny and Doug had spent the night, so Danny and Doug got a coffee can, like I say, everything was made out of tin can, rolled up about 20, or I don't know how many firecrackers, lit it off so they all went off on my back
Oh,
while I was sleeping, and they expected me to jump out of bed. And the story goes, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but they said I didn't really jump that bad.
No, didn't jump at
Didn't
all.
have the desired effect that they wanted.
No.
Well, I remember you jumping one time. Danny had
Oh, when he shot me.
brought the starter pistol home from the track.
No, the problem was it wasn't the starter pistol.
Oh, it wasn't the starter pistol, but you brought blank shells.
Blank shells.
Okay, and you put them in the regular pistol, and it didn't have an end on it.
Right.
And Jeff's walking up the stairs, and Danny thinks it'd be just great fun to scare the snot out of Jeff, and so he points a gun at him, and he shoots him with the blank. Well, it burned him. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
close enough that,
I think he didn't have a shirt on.
and he didn't have a shirt on.
Oh.
Dangest thing you ever saw. Jeff is, and think about the folks and how they hear this bang, and then they hear this blood curdling
Well.
scream.
Oh my god.
And Jeff he's wounded, but he's gonna die on his own bed. So he is stomping around the upstairs and goes and finally lands on his own bed. And some of us are laughing, but we don't think we ought to be laughing, right? And here comes the old man. Boy, he was off.
It was
No
not a
wonder
good
you
thing.
survived that.
I survived
Danny.
it, just barely.
I don't
Now
think
that's
I
my
could've-
recollection of the story. You can fix it if you want, but
No,
that's how I
you're
remember it.
Absolutely, and to be truthful, I was at the bottom of the stairs, the current stairs to the upstairs, and Jeff was coming down. And I went and shot him, and he turned around and ran back up the stairs and went over and jumped on his bed.
Jumped in his bed. Yeah.
So it was
Okay,
a
so
real
about-
brass blank.
No, what burning was the
The
powder,
wad.
the
I'm
wad.
saying it was a real brass
There
blank.
was a brass blank that was crimped shut on the end to hold the powder in.
So
So
I
there was
had
no
a wad.
projectile.
It's got a wad in it.
Yeah.
Well, but we'd been shooting each other, screwing around down at the school, and
Yeah.
you know,
Knew it was
So,
happening.
with a blank barrel, and
how old were you?
I was a freshman in high school.
Old enough to know better.
So if you were a freshman, then you
I'm
would,
5 years younger, yeah,
yeah,
6 years younger.
so, okay.
So
I think it was about the biggest commotion we ever had inside that house.
Oh, well, yeah.
well, and then didn't you talk about you guys having a fight with BB guns and using stick matches?
Well, we got in pretty big trouble, and we were pretty stupid. There was a little chicken coop out in the backyard
I wonder any of them
that
survived.
Daniel Boone's.
we had Davy Crockett's place was further out, and then we named these places. I think that was the chicken house was Daniel Boone's, and
The one behind Marie and Spence's.
up on our yard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must have never saw that one.
And
Don't remember.
I can't remember, but I believe it was Bobby Sager was involved, and
Oh,
some of the maybe
Yeah.
more neighbor kids, but for some reason I remember Bobby Sager. But we thought if we got far enough away, then BBs wouldn't hurt very bad if you did get hit. And we were parked behind lilac bushes, hiding behind stuff, and some people were in the shack, and we were actually shooting at each other with BBs. That was not a good plan.
Glad I missed out on that one. I'd have been the guy to lose an eye.
Well, if I remember right, somebody got hit pretty close
Yeah, I think.
in the face somewhere.
Yeah, and I think we were all involved in that, but I think that there was a neighbor kid or two
There
involved.
was, I don't remember all of it.
Yeah.
And
Statute of limitations has run out now.
I'll have to ask Bobby that the next time I talk to him. If he remembers that. What about I remember that too. Who said something about the stick matches?
We did that in the house, and we figured out that if you shot a stick match and you're out of your BB gun and it hit the wall, and it'd make a pretty good pop.
Oh, yeah.
And we had great fun with that one day, and one of the matches lit and landed on the carpet after we had remodeled the upstairs and burned the hole in the rug. And I remember we were in for it. Who did this? And nobody would fess up to it. And I don't think Jeff was the one that did it, but Jeff is such a good guy that he said, finally, he figured everybody was going to go to whipping, and he was going to sacrifice for the rest of us and take the whipping for us all. And he got a whipping, I remember that, but I think we all did. I remember,
You
I think.
remember that, Jeff?
Oh, and I love to do it. I mean, that was a great thing, pop against the wall and it didn't make a big
Well,
smack.
I got taught that trick at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think we did it in the house, but
Well, we did that time.
Probably learned.
Yeah.
but I saw it and I remember it make a pop.
Yeah.
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 I think that was the time where we figured we were in for whoopings, and I hurried up and grabbed about 6 pairs of shorts and went into the bathroom and put them all on. And when it was my turn to get spanked, the old man thud, and
Figured it out.
and I think that was the worst whooping I ever got, because he just increased the horsepower to make up for the extra pairs of shorts.
Well, he was a strong guy too.
Yeah, and he was a strong guy too.
Yeah, for sure.
We shouldn't be telling all of our secrets, should we?
No, I think you should.
Well, there's no,
Statute.
yeah, there is a statute of limitations. I'm saying you don't have to release this for years if you don't want to.
Better wait till the generations are like 40.
So you can't get stick matches anymore.
No.
Not like those.
No, I don't think these new ones would probably do it. No.
Probably not.
Oh, well, try it. No.
Well,
With the new BB guns that you
That's
pump
a
up,
new
it
carpet
might.
anyway.
I can tell you that I guess I'm just telling this story just to sort of make sure that it gets out at least amongst us, and that is that I pretty much went to a different school every year. I don't think I ever went to the same school twice except for Corvallis. I think I went to first grade here with Mrs. Thomas, and then wherever we were, ended up in a different school pretty much, and until I think part of sophomore, all the junior and senior year. But what I know is that I can remember being here as a little kid. I mean, I couldn't tell you how old, but I think we were here just pretty much all the time. Mom and Dad would have a blow, we'd end up here, or we'd come together as a family, whatever the case. But I remember admiring you guys for the mischief that you could get into. And it's probably a good thing I wasn't here just right along, because I might have gotten some worse trouble than I managed on my own. But I really admired the adventurous nature of your guys' exploits, and I admired you guys.
remember one time I got in really serious trouble. I think I had a Honda 90, and it wasn't the step through. It was the first one that had the gas tank up like a real
Yeah.
motorcycle. And I put you on the back, and we were coming up the hill, and we hit a bump right at the in front of the house there somewhere. And I don't know if it was a little jump that I'd been jumping off. I think it was. And I tried to jump off this with you on the back, thinking, you know, it'll be fun.
Surely the goofy little bugger will hang on.
One would think.
Well, everybody knows the ending of the story already.
The little bugger launched, and I got in serious trouble.
I'm sorry about that. I have a real vague recollection of flying through the air, but
Well, fortunately, you didn't land on your head. So.
When we first started, when those days, the Honda 50, I think, when we started, and then the Honda 90, but I think it was the Honda 50 that Julie drove into the porch.
We were going to teach her to how
We
to
were
ride.
going to teach her
how to ride,
to
yeah.
drive and ride, and we were going to give her a maiden voyage, and she hit the gas and kind of hung on tight, and away she went right through I think she slammed, the freezer was in the porch at that time,
Well,
and I think she,
I think one of you guys would teach her and hanging onto that doorway, and she looked at you like, "What do I do?" And of course, target fixation. She just drove right to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think she
I
sure
remember when
did.
she did that.
And you know, she never, the rest of us were all pretty wild about motorcycles, but I don't think she was ever that fond of motorcycles after that.
Not so much.
Yeah. That little back porch didn't have a lot of room to run either.
No,
Somebody ended up on that freezer. So just tough to get out of the way of the motorcycle.
I remember one story that maybe I haven't told you guys. I think I set the record for coming back from Bozeman when I was in college. I had bought that Ford Ranchero with a 351 Cleveland engine in it. It was pretty good car. Jeff had made the state wrestling meet, and it was in Missoula. And I didn't get out of class as soon as I would have hoped, and jumped in that car. I had somebody with me, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, we drove 100, put it on 100 and just left it there the whole way home. And at that time, it wasn't interstate all the way. It was 2-lane along
2-lane,
by
right.
Deer Lodge and all that. And I just left it at 100, wonder I didn't get stopped. The whole way. And then when I pulled off of the interstate in Missoula, or pulled off the exit, the points were so hot that they welded together, the car quit. And I didn't make your first match.
I remember that story.
No, it's just welded the points
The
together.
points melted.
Was it Jeannie? Because I know you traded rides. Or gave Jeannie a ride home every once in a while.
Yeah, I don't know at that time if it was, but yeah, I used to give her rides home.
I don't think she would have tolerated going 100.
No, I don't think so. It was somebody that was a pretty good sport. But I made it to Missoula in plenty of time, but by the time that I had to go to the
Didn't
gas
feel well,
station,
yeah.
find some points for the car, get it going again.
Yeah.
Remember the time that Tim shot himself in the knee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that.
Now there's different variants of that story. I'd like to tell my side of it,
Okay.
because we had two things going on at school. We had a concert where the band and the chorus were going to do together, and I was pretty big in the band. I don't know that this has anything to do with that story, but I just thought I'd throw it out there for fun. But then also it was the time of the Sweetheart Ball type thing, where the girls asked the boys to go to the dance, and that at the end of this will have something to do with the story. But anyway, I get out we had the 55 Willys Jeep station wagon that Brian Sutherland had helped us put a 283 engine in it. And I can't remember why the high standard 22 semi-automatic pistol was in there, but it was on the seat. I get in there. If I'd have been just left it on the seat and not worried about it, I'd have been fine. I was going to go somewhere in the Jeep. Anyway, I see it there, and I said, well, I ought to check it and see if it's got anything in it. And so I pull it out of the holster, and I'm sitting like this, my knees are like that, and in the Jeep. And I went to pull the slide back, and I thought either it clicked, or I heard it click, and I thought I had it latched, and I let go of it, or something happened. But anyway, when I let go, it went off. It went forward and it went off at the same time, put a nice little furrow in my knee. And of course it happened so fast that I didn't even know I was shot. I'm looking at the Jeep, I'm thinking I'm in big trouble. I probably shot a hole in the dashboard of the Jeep or something. I'm looking around to see where the bullet went, and then I notice a hole in my pants, and I'm seeing a little blood out there. So I jump out of the Jeep, and I'm not even wounded, just into the house at about 100 miles as fast as I could run, and I've been shot, I shot myself. And these guys are laughing, and you never shot yourself. What's it? You can't come running in if you've been shot, No, I shot myself. So I point at my knee, and yeah, there's a little hole there, and they pull my pants up, and they go low or down, I can't remember which, but anyway, there's a hole in his knee. And so that was, Dad says, well, we'll take you to the doctor. It was not a big emergency, but for some reason he decided to drive 90 miles an hour. And well, at that point in time, I can't remember whether it was one of those Buick Wildcats that he had or something like that. He's driving 90 miles an hour down the East Side Highway, and we get to about Black Lane there, and here's old George Brown pulls out with a pickup and a load of straw or hay or something on a flatbed trailer and goes clean across the road. So Dad takes the borrow pit behind him, and we're going sailing through the borrow pit, and somehow he gets it back up on the road. It's just like Dukes of Hazzard, right? So we get to the hospital, and it's like 2 hours before they find a doctor to come and look at my knee anyway. It's kind of like, okay, it's just about
The old hospital still.
Yeah, it was the old hospital. But anyway, when people asked how could I be so stupid to shoot myself in the knee like that, I says I just didn't want to take Shirlene Gardner to that dance.
Finally, we get full circle.
You finally got that full circle.
Well, in your defense, that pistol has a hair trigger on it. It was made for training in World War II. It was designed to train troops to use the .45, and it's got a very, very light trigger. What I suspect happened is it was probably not one in the chamber while it was sitting on the seat, and you picked it up
And loaded it.
When you held it, and you were, in order to be strong enough to pull that slide back, you probably had your finger on the trigger, and it picked a magazine or picked a load or a round up out of the magazine, injected it, and you had the trigger down, and the hammer followed it shut.
Yeah, kaboom.
Kaboom.
I just know that you
could do it
fixed it
so
so
easily.
that I never hardly got to shoot that pistol. I always wanted to shoot that pistol, and doggone it.
Couldn't shoot the high
Yeah, I
standard,
could. They'd stick a rifle in my hand, but I'd ask to shoot that pistol, and it got real quiet every time I asked if I could shoot that pistol. So. And I don't know that they should have trusted me with the rifle either, because
Yeah.
I almost shot your brother. I don't know if any of you know that.
Well, tell us the story.
No, this is
He
new.
and I went back up the lane.
You and Bruce?
No, Jeff and I.
Oh, Jeff, okay.
We each had a box of 22s, and each had a rifle. I couldn't tell you which rifle I had.
Gopher hunting.
Yeah.
No, we were going up to shoot magpies
Oh, okay.
back in the lane.
Oh, on the tree line.
Yep, up in the tree line there. We're walking along, and I'm behind him. I don't think he ever let anybody stand behind him again. I know I didn't get behind him when we were hunting ever again. But I touched one off, boy, and it peppered the back of its leg hit the ground right just at an angle, just right behind him. Probably just came within an inch of hitting him in the heel.
I hadn't heard that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He knew how close. He felt the dirt hit the back of his legs.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I never made a big deal out of it. I mean,
Well, you
like
never
said,
even
no
told
harm, no
anybody.
foul.
Well, he
He
didn't
was-
thump me for it.
You're
I
such
thought
a
I was going to
good
get
guy that
thumped.
He could have just told told
Yeah.
on you, and we could have had a lot of fun with that.
Well, I think he probably knew the significance or the weight of it better than,
I sure would have liked to known that. Then I could have got rid of this being embarrassed about Shirlene Gardner a lot sooner.
yeah. I never thought about that. I just felt lucky that he didn't thump me, number one. He barely even raised his voice at me. But I did learn a lesson. I mean, he was shocked enough and spooked enough that I got a good chewing out, but he was real quiet about it.
Yeah.
One of the only times.
There you go. Yeah.
I think it scared us both so bad that
Yeah. Just kind of. Wow.
Listening to all these things, I think you guys all have pretty darn good guardian angels.
We've worn our guardian angels out.
He got frazzled on us.
Yeah. Sure.
I think so too.
we weren't very old when that happened.
No.
I'm guessing I could have been more than 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I remember just one of the things that I've thought about is, you know, I felt bad for Jeff. As I got older and learned a little bit more about people, because poor Jeff had, you had Danny, you had Bruce, you had me, and we all did the football, and some of us did basketball or wrestling or everything, but we were all experts on what Jeff ought to do and how he ought to do it. And seriously, I mean, he's got a coach down at Corvallis to coach him in whatever he's doing, wrestling, especially football. But here we are, just like a bunch of magpies. Why did you do this? He's got, and if you throw Dad in there, he's got 4 coaches besides his regular coach telling him what to do and every move to make. It's a wonder he even puts up with any of us anymore.
I just about every match lost with had tears when I got home, you know, just because, like I say, you know, there were viable things I could have done, you know.
Well, yeah, but nobody deserves that kind of pressure. That was awful.
Yeah. But good coaches.
Did any of the rest of you guys wrestle, or just Jeff?
I wrestled 1 year when I was a junior because I was the shot in the knee plus our motorcycle wreck. I had a really bad case of Slaughter's disease. You can still see the bump right here. And running on a hardwood floor in basketball just hurt. It just hurt. And that was the year Mike Griffin came to be coach of the basketball team, and he says, you know what, we're going to be in better shape than anybody. We're going to do wind sprints for like a half an hour before we even start touching the basketball. That did not sound good to me, so I went up for wrestling. Marty Littman was the coach. And I didn't do too bad, but I wrestled JV most of the time, and it was kind of weird because Danny Muir and Bernie Smith were bigger than me at that time. Imagine that, Bernie Smith bigger than me when I was in school. But I could beat Bernie Smith and I could beat Dan Muir in practice, but Marty would not let me wrestle up those weights. And Nobles, Terry Nobles was I think he either won state championship or he got second.
Yeah.
But and Marty says, you want to wrestle varsity, you got to beat him. And so I wrestled JV my whole junior year, and
Tori's brother.
And I could do pretty well against him, but I could never beat him. I didn't beat him at all. But he was in the top echelon of that weight class at that time. So
Well, and as I remember it, Tim played football and he did all those things, and he graduated high school. He might have weighed 120 maybe.
well, I think they said
think that-
130 on the football program, but I know they cheated a
They
little
cheated,
bit.
yeah.
I was a little
Because I think Nobles won the 98 pound, was the state champion at the 98 pound.
well, when I wrestled, he was wrestling 123.
123.
Yeah, when he was a senior. Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is just a story about Tim.
I was a junior then, and that's what I weighed.
Tim goes to graduates and drops off to college in in Bozeman. Comes back the next year. For some reason, we go down to the gym. He walks in and football season's just starting, and Coach Litvin realizes that that's Tim, and he'd grown about 6 inches, probably put on 60 pounds,
Yeah.
not an ounce of fat on his body, ripped completely,
Ripped.
and
A well-developed neck.
yeah, yeah.
Just-
Marty Litt goes, "Where were you last year?"
I would have loved it if the folks would have found a reason to hold me back for a year or two, just for sports,
too.
because it would have been fun.
It would have been, yeah.
Because we all developed later, and I think that came from you and Bruce did better than Jeff and I, but Jeff and I both were
Oh, yeah.
slow.
Yeah, I grew 2 inches out of high school and put on a bunch of weight. So,
Yeah.
Me too.
He grew after we got married.
yeah.
Me too.
Well, is
I
Amos
thought
ever
you
going to quit
wrestled.
growing?
I did. I wrestled.
I think he's done.
It
I
was the
don't know.
first year they had it.
Every time I see that guy, he just looks bigger to me.
And
No.
Bruce Amston was our coach,
Yeah.
Oh.
Sounds good. Yeah,
and I was a senior
Yeah.
when I went out.
yeah. And I was so, you got me hooked on wrestling. Kid, I believe it was from Polson, and he was the jock, and he had wrestled all 4 years, and he was muscle bound, and he was overconfident, and
Doing handstands.
doing handstands and all this stuff. And Dan's over there, working out, getting ready to wrestle him and stuff. And that people are, around saying, "This is gonna be a quick one," I mean, it's just it's up to who you're up against. This guy's, he's known in the wrestling world, and he's really, really a good wrestler. And they went out there, and this guy, I don't know, Dan, if he did try some kind of a trick move on you or whatever, but you lit him on his head, and he was pinned so quick that he didn't know what hit him. I mean, just slap, bang, bam, and it was done. And that kid's eyes were, I could still remember him getting up, just dumbfounded.
He was.
Yeah,
I remember that too.
yeah. And Dan was low-key about it, shook his hand, and walked out. Like it happens all the time,
It was pretty cool.
That was pretty
It
cool.
was just one of those things where you're scared to death that of what's going to happen to you, and so you just,
You think this got
Had a
into
lot
some
of
pitch?
adrenaline.
You want me to shut it down just a little bit?
I'll get it.
I just pretty much tackled him. Played football, and I there was blood all over when we got up. Eschenbacher was the ref, and I'm bleeding all over. And did you bite him? And I was the one with a bloody nose, so my nose had hit him
Yeah.
at some point somewhere. So I was bleeding all over.
He might have met heads and knocked
It's
him
not
out.
my, I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
I just know he was on his back so quick, it was just, in my eyes, of course, that's my brother, look at that, yeah, that's pretty neat.
But better to be lucky than good. I wrestled him 2 more times in that year, and he beat me both times. So.
But he didn't take you for granted.
No.
So I know that when Jeff was a kid, whatever, and when, not during school time, but when chores were done, he'd want to disappear to the river. And I know Chris went with him a lot of times and stuff. What did you guys do when you you were done with chores? What was the...
We had to do
we
Jeff's
need to
chores
talk-
because he was gone to the river.
We need to talk about this.
Him and Jeffrey Unruh, they were always
Him and Jeff Unruh. We didn't call him Jeff, we called him Huck Finn. Huckleberry Finn, he's off to the river every day, fishing or hunting or something. He lived there.
Snagging suckers,
He
loved to snag suckers.
At that point in time, he probably knew Tucker Crossing better than anybody in
Oh, boy.
the world. So he was down there every day.
Well, you always knew where to find him then, right?
Yeah, well, always did, yeah. So,
No, that was.
And if they came looking for it, I knew I'd stay too long.
Yeah. We were just jealous, but it was Jeff did his share. think his responsibilities when he was younger, of course, at that point in time, it was kind of weird because we would take shifts milking. 2 people didn't milk. It was, and Danny more took care and helped with the feeding, so he didn't get in on the milking quite so much.
Not as much.
But not that you never did, but you had other responsibilities. But I remember it was Jeff and Julie, and me and Bruce would take turns, the first shift and second shift, and we played all kinds of stupid games in that. It's kind of like the idea was to milk half the cows and call and say it's time for second shift, and if you waited till you had half of them milked, and then by the time the second shift come dragging down there, you might even have 20 cows left to milk is all. So then first shift would start cheating a little bit and going, well, we're going to call when we're half done with first shift and make sure they get down there on time. And so they would get down, and there would be not quite half done, and they wouldn't like that. So we were, if we were just honorable, it would have been a good thing, but we weren't. We were always trying to get ahead of it.
Especially if there was a good program on
Oh
television.
man, yeah. If you were in the middle of Gunsmoke or something, and you needed to see how it ended before you came down to milk your part of the cow.
Yeah, or Sea Hunt. That was my favorite.
Sea Hunt.
Remember Sea Hunt?
But we came by that honestly, because we would be milking with Dad, and we'd be milking away, and Dad would say, I haven't seen your grandmother for a while. I need to go and say hi to her. So hold down the fort. Well, and it was fine because one person could milk the cows. It wasn't a big deal. But he would disappear to Grandma's, and you'd be cleaning out the barn by the time he got back.
Yep.
It didn't hurt us a bit, but he was pretty good at sneaking over.
That's back though when you had only 5 sets
Five
of milkers.
sides, yeah, 5 cows.
So you were switching sides.
Yeah, that was actually it was before the herringbone. Actually,
Oh,
it was
okay.
just on
Before the herringbone.
the one-sided surge deal. And
The herringbone came in 68, I think.
68.
7 maybe.
Okay, that makes sense because I
I
remember
think it was 67.
showing up right as that
Right.
had happened, and I think the tank room got built at the same time.
It did. Yeah.
There was
The
some remodeling that got done, and
At that same time, a telephone got put in.
That
And
was a
when you
mistake.
milked with Dad,
oh
the
yeah,
phone would ring.
I can see him with his foot up on a milk can and the phone in his hand.
well, he was interested in
For hours and
politics.
hours and hours.
He got
you
interested
did
in
all the
politics, and he also was working on trying to get Mountain View put together.
Yeah.
So he was on the phone with Homer Bailey a lot and with Leonard Peterson a lot. And then Marge Mann, I believe, was the chairman of the Republican
Party.
Right. Yeah.
Party at that time, and I was trying to get Dave to run for office all the time and different things. And so the phone would ring, and we'd just go, we're toast. Because he'd be standing there talking on the phone while we were milking.
Too bad there wasn't Bluetooth back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But he'd stand there by the door.
Foot up on a milk
Yeah, but
can.
and so the whole time he's watching you do the milking while he's visiting. It's
Yeah, it was
And didn't even feel bad about it, as I recall.
supervised, yeah.
That explains a few things. I never heard the story about half milking half a shift and then getting relieved. But I can remember, and Dana still carries this hard. It didn't bother me. It kind of sparked me a little bit, but I can remember helping you and Julie milk, and Dana calls it counting cows. And I still tease her about it. You never could milk very many cows. So I never understood, why are they paying attention to how many cows get milked?
Gotta get half.
Yeah.
Gotta be fair.
The herringbone was there, but there were only 5 milkers.
That's right, and you swung them across.
Swung
so
right?
right across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next upgrade was when we got 10 milkers, had to put a bigger pipeline in, and we put 10 milkers in. And then we also did the computer feeder later in the back
Later,
flush
yeah.
and all of that. We actually modernized that barn quite a bit.
I was here for that part when
Yeah.
Yeah.
the feeders went up, and
Yeah.
I remember there was always trouble with the feeders.
It was challenging.
Well, the toughest times for me to go down and milk was right around either New Year's or whenever there was major football stuff going on. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, Bill Richards had a beautiful color TV, and he would load that sucker up and bring it down and tinker around with it and get it plugged in. And when you're used to watching black and white TV and somebody puts a color TV in front of you, you just sit there and you go, this is
Yeah.
so spectacular.
Can't take your eyes off it.
And so all of a sudden we're watching stuff in color, and somebody calls and goes second shift, and you're just, you know, you wonder why kids these days crawl into their cell phones. We did the same thing when the color TV came along. We didn't want to leave and go do
I
chores.
can remember that too.
Oh, the program's almost over. Just a minute.
Yeah. Just time out, just a minute.
Almost over. It's only a half an hour.
I can remember we used to go, I watched the very first Super Bowl that ever was. And we were at Bill and Alice's house, and I think it was the house that they'd done the remodel on, right just across the railroad track.
Just down here on Pop
On Pop End, right at the railroad tracks, right there. Bill and Alice rented that house.
Oh, really?
And Uncle Dan was the ditch rider for the Corvallis Canal, and I can't remember the name of the lady that owned the house, but she'd ride Dan because the groundwater would come up in the house. You know, and later they jacked up that house and put the foundation under it, because it originally was built on rocks.
Yeah.
And it settled into that nice black dirt, of course, and so when the water came up,
Yeah.
but I can't remember her name, but I remember Uncle Dan coming up and saying, oh, so-and-so called me and just ripped me from one end to the other, because the water in the ditch, you know, the Corvallis Canal goes right by there as well, so.
Yeah,
And then they moved up to Darby,
yeah, Connor, actually.
Connor actually, and I remember going to see the Super Bowl in that house up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to stop there. Uncle Dan was driving a milk truck.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there'd be the folks that'd be going there, and I'd have Uncle Dan drop me off. And
Yeah.
we'd have Bill and Alice when we watch color TV.
Yeah.
He told the story about helping Grandpa Spencer with his color TV.
I actually had it in the sermon one time that I wrote. And I can't remember the sermon off the top of my head, but it had. I kind of used Spence as an example. Do you guys remember going in there and they had a color TV, their first color TV.
Yeah.
But you'd go in there and almost all the time was hardly any color, if any at all. It was more black and white. And I really believe this to be the case, but we would adjust it and get it right. But we go back next time and it'd be all turned down again. And I suspect, I don't think he's ever said it, or he ever said it, but I suspect that he thought it was going to run out of ink.
Yeah, right.
I,
By the color up.
I think he thought that if you turned it up to where you could see it good,
The color would go
the
away.
color would run out.
So he was
Yeah.
saving the color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
saving
so
the
I
color.
really believe that's what he was doing, conserving
I-
color.
I never thought about that, but
I think you're right. I think that's
Pretty sure that's
absolutely
what it
right.
was, because we'd go in there and it was always turned back. And I remember Marie, talk about a water conservationist.
Oh, boy.
If there was no tolerance for a drippy faucet. There was no tolerance. And she was a nice lady and she was pretty tolerant of us when we were kids. But if you wanted to push her button, and I remember, and I think we'll blame Danny just out of convenience, but one of us, left a bar of soap in the sink and didn't get the faucet shut all the way off, so it had a little dribble stream on the soap. Well, both things were very sinful behavior. One was wasting water and the other one was wasting soap. She always had a little kind of a
net bag.
fabric net bag thing, and when the soap got wound down, she would throw it in this net bag. So there was always a little bit of so there was nothing that didn't get used until it was entirely gone, and she was very passionate about not wasting water.
Yeah.
Very passionate.
To the point that the drains would plug because there
Because-
wasn't enough water going
Right,
in.
yeah.
Well, I remember going down to her house, and if you turned on the hot water, you were putting glass after glass under it and filling those up because you weren't going to waste the water waiting for it to get hot. You had to use that water, and she'd have sometimes 6 or 8 glasses of water on the counter
Oh yeah.
waiting for the water to get hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that came from the time when she was a child, where her responsibility was to get the water and go pump the well
Oh wow!
and do what, so it was
Yeah.
it was labor to
Mhm.
get the water. That was high intense labor to get the water you needed, so you didn't waste it.
Well, she was awful patient with us because I'm sure we were spoiled little city heathens. And I can remember having to remember every time not to try to cool off a glass of water. If she saw you dump a glass of water down, and she never really ripped hard on us, but boy, you got told. And I can remember Mom getting chewed out because the kids were using too much toilet paper. That was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up on that. I yelled at my kids for it. You don't have to use 40 feet.
History repeated itself.
Yeah. But
I
Yeah.
remember your dad one day came, and I had been here and he'd acquired a .22 pistol. It was a little revolver of some sort. I'm not sure how big it was. I don't remember the gun necessarily. But we went outside, and I think it shot .22 shorts. I think he had 22
little
shorts.
bit,
Yeah. And my wagon was there. He says, "I'm going to see if I can poke a hole in your wagon." And he shot the wagon, and the wagon was sitting there, from me to you, roughly. And he hit the floor of the wagon at that angle. It bounced up and hit the floor of the wagon, didn't go through it, bounced up and hit the sidewall of the wagon, and came back and cut his head right here.
Really?
He was bleeding. Yeah. Thought he shot himself in the head, but it didn't. It skidded off his head as well. So,
Wow.
but it cut him.
I can imagine somebody saying, "Well, you damn fool, that's what you get for trying to shoot the wagon."
Yeah. Wasting a good wagon.
But I remember that just vivid as vivid because I was standing right there.
That's probably a good thing he didn't have. I've got a dresser down in my basement. In fact, I'm trying to get Matt and Meredith to take it because we don't need it. But if anybody wants a good dresser, it's made out of cherry wood. It was in his apartment, and it's one we'd had from the time we were little kids. But he touched off a .44 Magnum in that apartment and went through the wall and into that dresser. There's a big bullet hole in the back of one of those drawers.
Oops.
Well, it was great to have our grandparents close.
Yeah.
It was great. The Richards place is a little further away, and I remember at least from my perspective, we interacted when we were little kids a lot more with Marie and Spence, especially me. Everybody likes the story of me dumping Mom's purse down the toilet, and I contend it was strictly an accident. I was just caught recovering it out of the toilet. But everybody else says no, he was shaking the contents out of the toilet because I was angry about getting usurped in my position in the family by the twins. But I would wander down the hill, and Grandma Marie and Spence had loved to see me coming and treated me just like gold. And I spent a lot of time with Grandma and Grandpa down there, and
He was their favorite.
which was, well, I don't know about that, but
No,
I was down there a lot.
When we were kids, you were.
when I was down there a lot, and also kind of when before I had started school, you guys had started school, you and Bruce, and I was still hanging around. I got the privilege of riding to Stevensville Feed and Farm with Spencer to get to roll the grain and have the molasses added to it, and so I was his co-pilot down there, and I learned a couple things. I learned Spencer knew how to cuss. You never heard him cuss at home. He knew how to cuss, and sometimes it was at me. And he was kind of, you get him off by himself, and he'd kind of have some fun, He'd go down there, and I remember one time he reaches over and he does the old finger thing, and if you don't know what the finger thing is, he reaches over when he says, "Here, pull my finger," pull his finger, he lets loose of a big old fart, and ha ha ha, I laugh at him from halfway to Stevensville all the way to Stevensville. But nowadays, I violated every OSHA regulation there was, because probably at that time there wasn't. I had the run of the place in that mill, and mills are dangerous places. Yeah. But I had hidey holes and I had things, and while they're sitting there sacking that feed up to bring back in the pickup truck, bring it down loose in the pickup truck, and then they'd put it in 100-pound bags and put molasses in it, steamrolled and molasses added, and I don't know what other things, but that was our dairy feed. And in the barn we had drop tubes and bins upstairs. So Spence would get home with that grain all bagged up, back up to the doors that are still in that barn. You can see them. And Dad would stand in the back of the pickup, pick up those 100-pound sacks and throw them through those doors to dump them into the bins to have them ready for. And I think that happened maybe a couple times a week, but at least once a week to get that feed. And you wonder why the old man had shoulders like that, and why he was so strong. That's what he was doing. Everything that we did with augers and we did with electricity, he was doing
by hand,
throwing stuff up in the top of that barn by hand. Just crazy.
And then you would, when you were milking the cows, you would reach up when you had a turn,
so much
a handle, and you turn it 2 times or 3 times, and that would give them the right amount of grain.
Yeah.
And then the cows would figure out that if they were ornery enough, you could, and they'd kick and start raising hell. If you gave them another twist, they'd settle down because they got more grain.
Which we did.
They
trained us.
They trained us. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember that.
Yeah. So.
But I remember you having some, maybe it was just when you started having problems with those bins.
Yeah.
And it not working anymore.
I can remember going with Grandpa Spence to that feed mill, and he would take us just next door to the feed mill was the bowling alley, Stevensville bowling alley. And we got to bowl a couple times. That was just really fun.
And then the other thing we did, and we didn't do it every trip, but every once in a while he'd say, "Let's go get a sherbet." And we'd go down to the drugstore that's still there, and he'd buy me a sherbet ice cream cone. I always got sherbet because I don't know why. I just like the orange sherbet.
Oh, yeah,
Orange
it was
sherbet.
good. Yeah, I like sherbet.
And they're still serving ice cream there.
Yeah, they're still
They're still doing
We
it.
went into that fountain here a while ago and had a deal, and I started pining. This me and Grandpa used to come in here and get ice cream.
We took the Knox girls down there, and it was close to closing time, and poor Izzy couldn't make up her mind.
Oh,
They were looking at the clock, and
yeah,
it's fun to take them places like that.
yeah.
I think we got taken down there a couple of times, but I thought our grandparents, their biggest talent, I figured out when I got old enough to really think about it, is that they, at least for me, it seems like they had a real talent for making every one of us feel like we were the favorite.
I think that was right.
10 grandkids, but
I'm still convinced that it was Tim.
well, you were closer to it, and I was always jealous of that. You guys had them all the time.
She'd call me up, and I've told this story at church a lot of times because in Sunday school or different things that I got a lot of Billy Graham Grandma was down
Yeah.
there, and even after I got into college and would be home, she would call me up and she'd say, "Timothy J, Billy Graham is going to be on in about an hour, and I've got hot cookies. Would you like to? Won't you join me?" She'd say, "Won't you join me?"
There is no answer.
I
of
got
no
a lot
to
of.
that.
I could tolerate Billy Graham for an hour for hot cookies.
Yeah. Best cookies in the world.
And then there was that, and then the Wizard of Oz. She would call me and say, "Would you come down and watch the Wizard of Oz again with us?" And I'd say, "If Grandpa turns up the color, I'll come watch it."
The Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
that, I hate that movie to this day.
I do too.
It scared me to death.
It
The
was
mo-
scary.
I was petrified of that thing because I believed it was all real, you know, when I was a little kid. Saw that for the first time, oh, man,
Very scary.
very
Those
scary.
monkeys are scary.
Yeah, and witches and.
The witch was
oh,
scary.
man.
Wizard of Oz,
she
scaring children
melted.
since 1930, whatever.
Yeah. Well, he was successful with me, but I still don't like it.
I'd like to hear Jeff's recollection of Grandpa Spence taking us to the practices and the
Oh,
baseball.
Well, I was
Baseball,
just-
yeah.
I was just thinking of that. You know, I don't know, I guess everybody had that privilege of Grandpa Spence stepping in and taking you, you know. But there were always those highlights, you know, of Victor, ice cream sherbet, of course, if we were playing Victor, that was so fun to go down and get an ice cream sherbet after the game, win or lose, you know.
Yeah.
But a win, he had a car at that time, I think it was new to him, but anyway, it had a Hemi in it. Remember that car?
Oh, yes.
55
Kind of
Dodge,
a
I think.
Cream green, light green,
It had push
I
button
was gonna say,
transmission.
Yeah,
I wondered if that wasn't the push button.
The push
Yeah,
button.
yeah. But he'd say, you know, you guys won today and we haven't opened this thing up for a while. And so he would hit Popham's Hill, and then at the bottom, we'd be going 35, and at the top, we'd be going 75 miles an hour. I mean, just, it had a lot of guts to it. And then we'd turn the corner on Sutherland, and he'd like to try, he said, "I don't think I ever get there, but I'd like to try." Where we'd fly over that hill, and then all of a sudden the brakes would come on, because he knew if Marie saw him going that fast, he'd kill him. And we'd come in honking, but we wouldn't come in flying, we'd come in honking. So, honking that we won. Those were pretty big highlights.
Yeah, if we won, he'd start blowing the horn at the top of the hill.
Top blowing the
All
horn
way
at the top
down.
of the hill.
The hill was a lot steeper back then,
Oh,
too.
man, yes.
Yeah, they have lessened the angles
Yeah,
on all of
lessened.
these hills.
All these hills used to be much steeper.
Yeah.
But I remember too, and it's the same thing. I remember it exactly like Jeff did. He liked to open it up once in a while, especially because Grandma wasn't in the car.
Yeah.
He could get away with it, but the older he got to shaking more, and his throttle foot would shake really bad. So he'd be driving along and he'd start shaking, and so he'd pull that foot like this, and his
Oh.
left foot would handle the throttle better, smoother. So he'd be all tied in a knot. And I don't know how in the world he would ever stop if somebody ran out in front of him, or if he had to, you know. And it seemed like going to the games or going to the practices, he drove pretty sane. But it's just like, especially if we won, he got excited, you know.
Oh,
And
He loved baseball.
and he knew it tickled us, you know.
yeah.
And it was funny because on the east side highway, it's nice and straight and stuff. He seemed pretty sane on that. Turn on Popham Lane and get closer to home, the more brave he got with his car.
Yeah.
And then he liked to unweight going up over top of those hills.
Your stomach would end up in your throat.
Yeah.
And then no seat belts. There was none
No.
of that.
No.
You know, you're just in there like a bunch of BBs in a box car. You know. Boy, he'd get tickled though. He had to be grinning from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Driving that
Well,
car.
and you would be grinning from ear to ear too, because you caught, you know, a win it was a reward, you know. You know,
Well,
we
it
get
was
to
better
fly.
than a ride at the fair, I thought.
Yeah.
It's great.
Mom told stories about Aunt Ina and Uncle Heinrich coming over the hill with, and And she claimed, I don't know if this is true, maybe you can verify it, but she claimed that Anine would be riding on the sideboards of the car, whooping and hollering.
I don't remember that. I don't doubt it, maybe, but I don't.
Knowing Anine, I kind of don't doubt it. She kind of had that personality.
She had that kind of personality, without a doubt.
She was the fun aunt for sure.
She was fun.
Well, to see, I didn't know Uncle Hanner, but Aunt Ina would drive over to Marie and Spence's for dinner or something, and here'd be this car coming down the road with nobody at the wheel. I'm looking.
She's so
She
short.
was so short. She
She's
couldn't
looking
tell.
through the wheel. to
Yeah,
see.
exactly.
She got to where she wouldn't use her mirrors, and I don't know if she was tall enough to see him anyway, but she would back up, like at church or like at the drugstore or wherever she was at, until she would just back up, and she'd go nice and easy, but she'd go until she felt it clunk, hit somebody, and she quit driving.
We have a dear friend that backs up that way to this day. She will be nameless.
Well, that's when cars were made of something, you could go clunk and it
Yeah,
didn't leave
yeah.
a
Right.
That's what
$500
bumpers were
dent.
for, right?
This modern person has a camera in her dashboard.
But it doesn't beep.
It doesn't beep, but she will not look at the camera.
That's funny.
It's fun.
It probably would beep, but she has the beeper turned
Probably
off.
has the beeper turned off.
It may be. It may be.
Possibly.
We were in Costco the other day and puts it in reverse and she's just talking away. Backs right into it. Thank goodness it was the bumper of a truck. Like,
I'm not gonna ask who that was.
like, oh my gosh.
Since we're recording this for posterity,
Yeah.
should probably tell Anina's joke, since some of us
Oh,
can
yeah.
more relate to it now than back then. But if you asked her how she was doing, she always said, "I'm in my metal years, you know." Remember this?
No, help me out.
What do you mean, Anina? Well, I've got silver in my hair, gold in my teeth, and lead in my arse.
Oh, I don't remember that
I
one.
heard that, I heard that over and over.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
She was, I always felt like I was her favorite. She always was really good to me.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Really liked Anina.
Yeah,
The other aunts would give me a hard time about my beard or whatever.
Yeah.
Anina pat me on the arm. "You look just fine, honey. You look handsome. Don't listen to those old biddies." And she was older than all of them.
Speaking of the Christmas Eve thing, you know, Uncle Dan used to be regular, and Aunt
Yeah.
Ina used to be regular.
Yep.
We'd have Christmas Eve, you know. Pretty fun when you think about, you know, paying attention to them and getting to know them, and
Yeah.
how special that is,
Yeah.
and how I think it's pretty cool that we as a family have gotten together, because that's pretty special. That doesn't happen very many places, and we're pretty blessed that our family gets to know their uncles and their relatives as good as that they do. So pretty cool.
We used to go all the way out, and the sleigh bells were very loud. It seems to me, as I remember. And we always used to go to the roof, jumping up and down on the roof and whatnot, until somebody fell off.
I know who that was. I've got a poem about that, but I can't
But
remember.
I haven't even been ever allowed to be Santa Claus again.
I wish I
I
was.
entrusted with it twice and lost my privileges. Lost my license to be
Well,
Santa.
that's your license.
And
to
the
sell.
bells were lost until they realized that the last time they were seen was when Santa came falling off of the roof and
Oh
went
no, we
looking
had
in the
the.
bushes, and oh, there they are.
There they are.
Well, I don't remember that, but I remember us using those bells afterwards.
We did.
Oh, yeah.
But they were lost for almost a year until we were panicking because we couldn't
Couldn't
find them.
find them.
And when they were out underneath the lilac bush, about where you lit.
Well,
Seriously.
I don't remember losing the bells. I think I'd remember that.
Yeah, I think you
I
lost.
don't-
You lost.
I think somebody's grandkids must have. I think I'd remember even having them.
Do we
I
have
think
the
you
belt
didn't
now?
care about the bells
Oh
once
yeah,
you
we
came
got
off
it.
of the roof.
It's just when we look for them for the
Yeah.
next year that they.
Yeah,
Where did
I
we
feel
put
bad
'em?
about
I
that.
haven't seen that belt in years, so,
Yeah, they're kind of worse for wear, but they're still there.
yeah, cool.
I really like the display you put with Dad's Ruana
Oh, do you?
and stuff. That's
Really
really
nice,
nice.
yeah.
That looks really good.
It's fun. That's,
He got that from Emil Peterson, and as I remember the story, Ruana came up to Emil's, and Gene and Dad were friends, and when he came up, he was looking for Elkhorn for the handles, and he didn't want to pay for the Elkhorn, so he traded him those. Gene had a knife that was identical to Dad's, and then Dad's knife. And then Dad acquired that by horse trading something with Emil. I'm not sure what it was, but
Yeah.
he ended up, or maybe it was a gift from Gene to Dad at some point. I don't know. But that knife was one of those original
Yep.
Ruanas,
So,
Right, one of the very first.
one of the very first, yeah.
so Emil was Gene's dad,
Emil was Gene's dad.
and
Yeah.
Gene is Mark Peterson's dad.
Gene is Mark Peterson's dad, right?
Just for
And Dad always said that Gene never came out of the mountains till he was 12 years old.
Oh.
And he said they went to Corvallis, and he hid in the car because he was so scared of all the people. He'd never been around people. And so that was
because they lived back
they
in
lived
the
up in the
dry.
dry land.
up in the dry land.
Well, I heard it was a buckboard.
Maybe it was a buck.
Probably
I remember
was.
Dave
Probably
talking
was.
about him hiding underneath the seat of the buckboard.
Yeah.
So Papa's, I'm just doing this for the, but Papa's house, and was that Emil's?
Emil's house, yeah.
That was Emil was Papa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that house is still standing up there. Still there.
I heard a little different version of the Ruana story. Yours is probably accurate, but it struck
Share
me
yours,
that
because I don't, I'm
the
thinking.
way Dave told me is that somehow or another, Ruana came down looking for Elkhorn, and that it was Dave and Gene that had made the deal with him.
Oh, okay.
That give him Elkhorn for the knife, so the knife went directly from
Ruana.
Rudy Ruana's hand to
Dad's.
Dave and Gene's hand.
Okay.
That they had worked out that deal.
Okay.
And he was talking about how apparently he'd gone down there and Rudy showed him how he was taking Studebaker Jeep springs and
Mhm.
turning them into blades. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
those knives that came out of Rudy's hand are outrageous expensive now.
Oh, yeah,
So
they're
that knife being one of the probably
Yeah.
first handful he made is
Yeah.
probably
Dad-
scare you to death.
Dad was down somewhere in Missoula at a machine shop, and anyway, having a part built, and he was, messing around waiting for the part. And here's a bolt bucket, and here's a Ruana knife sticking in that bolt bucket, and it was older than Dad's knife, and Drew has that now.
Oh, really?
It was actually built on a kind of a fillet frame, got a long, narrow
Oh, I
blade. It's
remember
got
that
just a
knife.
little bit of flex to it.
I think I remember that too.
I think that's probably as valuable as Dad's,
Yeah.
And I can't remember, he just said, what do you want for this knife, and,
Yeah.
picked it up for little or nothing,
Yeah.
so.
Dad used to, when he was driving the milk truck, in relief of Uncle Dan, he'd always stop at the pawn shops in Butte and
Yeah,
different things, and not every one, but he had some that he liked to stop and see. And every one time I didn't buy it, but he says, "Oh, there's a nice pistol in this pawn stop. You want to stop and look at it? You could get a good deal on it." I didn't buy it.
yeah. Bathroom real quick.
Okay.
I think it would be really cool if somebody told a Bruce story, Because he's not here to defend himself.
Oh, you want a fun one, or do you want
I don't know. I know there's lots.
Well, there goes the rest of the afternoon.
Oh,
That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
well, we were talking about wrestling. Bruce didn't wrestle. He didn't care about wrestling. And we'd come home, and I don't know if Danny ever tangled with him or not, but I did. I took wrestling when I was a junior, and I got thinking, well, I'd learn some moves. I know I learned some moves. I made the mistake of thinking that I could use those moves on Bruce one day, and there was absolutely nothing that I did that made any difference to him at all, other than amuse him. He was so dang strong, and he just, I don't know. There was, you learn techniques and countering things and countering different. None of what I learned in wrestling worked with Bruce. He'd tie you in a knot.
Well, I was dumb enough to try Jeff several times growing up. And it took me a long time to understand I couldn't hurt him in any way, shape, or form.
But you kept trying. That's the thing.
kept
Perseverance.
trying.
That's the deal.
I kept trying until I didn't. Yeah, I never tried Bruce. I never tried you guys. You guys had the Indian sign on me pretty early.
Well, you were quite a bit younger then.
Well,
We talked about
7 or 8 years.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
When you're kids, that's
That's
a
When
lot.
you're
of
kids, that's a
years.
lot.
That's a lot. That's
Well,
a
yeah,
good-
I mean, I got to firsthand see the Huntsy stuff, so I stayed strictly away from you. Danny and Bruce were a little calmer, but I didn't want to get Huntsy.
Yeah, Tonsi, hi, Huntsy.
I didn't even know what that,
That
means,
and-
but
and-
I said it all the time.
Two's too many.
Yeah, I knew what that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were here, I stayed out of Tim's way.
Two's too many. You can tolerate one, but not two.
Well, it was different going from being the oldest kid out of 5 to being the youngest when he came up here to visit. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden he was the younger brother.
His roles changed.
Yeah.
I think probably the biggest effect of that was my brothers and sisters got a real break.
Yeah.
I was probably a lot nicer big brother after I hung out with you guys.
Well, I remember these guys set the bar pretty high for me, because I think Danny and Bruce, they have the sweetheart ball at school, and then they give these awards out, like prettiest eyes, Danny Halls, and
Best hair.
Best hair, yeah.
I got you in the end, right? But I was, and Dan and Bruce are always winning all of these little prizes that are recognitions at the thing. Most valuable player on the football team, Dan Halls, Bruce Halls. I'm the first one that didn't get a nod for most valuable player, didn't make all conference, did nothing of note, right? And I that bothered me for a long time. I'm just going, hey, I dropped the ball for the Hulse family tradition.
That's a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure. Well, and I, like everybody said, I only weighed a little bit. I think I did pretty good for what I had to work with, and probably I didn't deserve to win all of those awards, but it was hard on me not to, and these guys had been so successful and all that stuff.
I didn't know you won best hair.
Oh, he had the
I
prettiest
can
blonde
remember.
hair when he
I
was
can
a kid.
remember what your hair looked like.
It was the
I
girls
used
all.
to get so upset with my mother because she would cut my hair wrong. It was just horrible.
You could go to a real barber, but it would cost you money.
Well, no, yeah, the only real barber we knew was Uncle Emmett.
I remember after we were
He would
married,
have really cut your hair off.
you got mad at your mom the last time she cut your hair, and you not letting her cut my hair anymore. Now you can do it.
Oh, thank you.
But I had a little training, so I did well.
Well, yeah,
I cut your hair for a long time.
you did. Good.
And now, there's no
It's
point.
really an easy job to cut my hair now. I just walk in, sit down in the chair, say number one, and say,
Yeah.
it's done.
I know he's always in town, so he just goes and has Emily do it or whoever.
Whoever
which
happens
is
to be there.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Are they back from Hawaii?
I think they're back. We
Yeah.
haven't heard from anybody.
Mary Beth said they came back 2 nights ago or something like that. The 8th or whatever.
They were supposed to be gone 10 days.
Or 10 days.
So
I don't know.
they
They
left
left
the
on
30th,
the
I
30th.
believe.
So.
Well, that's fun.
It looked like Julia kept sending me pictures, and or Dave started sending me pictures too of Julia. Looked like they were having a good time, so hopefully they
I
did.
think they did.
Yeah.
We got a couple of pictures, I think Emily sent them. We were getting close to closing, so she was in touch, and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I remember you were asking about Bruce a little bit. When I got to college and I started lifting weights and we were racing bikes and we got pretty buff, all of us were pretty strong. And arm wrestling was a big thing. And we got to the point where the old man wouldn't arm wrestle us anymore. Not because he couldn't beat us, but I just didn't think he wanted to destroy our confidence. You know, because he just kind of withdrew from doing that. And maybe it was because probably he had arthritis and he probably didn't want to hurt.
His shoulder hurt.
He could probably still whip any of us, but he didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
But I remember Bruce and I was feeling pretty stout, and Bruce and I got in a arm wrestling contest one time, and we pushed on each other for a while, and we're just going at it pretty good. Neither one of us are getting the upper hand, and all of a sudden we hear a pop like somebody's arm broke or something.
I was there.
And it
I
was
heard
loud,
that.
and we both just kind of eased off, and we kind of let go, and we said, "Are you all right?" Kind of went, "Yeah, I think so. Are you all right?" I think I was the one that said it. I just looked at him and said, "Let's not do this anymore."
It was you that said that.
Yeah.
You said, "Let's not do that some more."
Yeah.
And I went,
It was a loud thing. It was, I don't know what it was, but it was not
something
good.
popped.
Something popped.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I like the story of Jeff arm wrestling Julie.
Oh,
Jeff probably doesn't like that too
no,
much.
I don't like that story.
No, when you got it.
Yeah.
Well, the way I remember it, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff,
Go ahead.
but again, too many coaches and all of this stuff, but Julie was pretty buff, and girls get
Mature,
stronger and
yeah.
grow quicker than boys and everything, and she'd been feeding calves and doing a lot of chores like Jeff was, but she could beat Jeff in an arm wrestle, and we thought that was pretty bad for Jeff not to be able to beat his twin sister in an arm wrestle. But then we found out that she could beat everybody in the class. That was cool. there was none of them
He
that could
wasn't
beat
the
her.
only one.
I don't
She
think there was anybody that could beat
She
her.
was very strong.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't
And
know
the-
if she could beat Lorna Griffin.
Now maybe that was it. The only other one was Lorna.
Yeah.
Was she in your guys'
Yeah,
class?
she was in our class.
Oh, I had forgotten that.
Yeah,
She was very strong. And then Connie after her.
yeah.
I told Connie one time I think she might have been a junior in high school. I said, "Punch me in the arm as hard as you can." I tell you, my
only
eyes
said it
got
once.
wet.
Little fist with a lot of energy. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, anyway, to come up with on that story, it was probably one of you guys, but it might have been Dad. I think it was. I always
You
credited
said it was Dad.
Yeah, but Dad took me aside one time and he said, "She's using a technique on you, and you'll never beat her." And he said, "The only way to beat her is let her beat herself." And he said, "You pull it as hard as you can pull, and she pulls towards herself when she does this. And once she gets it up here, then she turns and she goes like this." And she said, "Just watch her fist, and when it starts to turn, just relax." And so I did that, and boom, she just punched herself right in the mouth, really, really hard. Whack!
That's good.
Poor Julie. I think there was even blood. I mean, she hit herself.
Was that the last time you guys
Yeah,
arm
that's the
wrestled?
last time we
Probably
arm
ended
wrestled.
that whole series.
Yeah, I won that one. I won the last one.
You went, well, that's the only important one. You're the champ.
Julie was, she was just about mystical to me growing up. She was just the prettiest, and but she would tease me. Oh man, when we were kids, she'd say, "I'm gonna give you a big old kiss," and just chase me all over the barnyard. No.
That's funny. Well, see, all of a sudden, Jeff and Julie had a younger brother.
I think
So,
that
you know.
that might have been something.
That might have been.
Took
part of it,
advantage.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That helped.
it was pretty nice for us. That's for sure.
yeah.
Oh, I think it was a big pain in your butt for a long time, but I think you got over it.
I had a lot of pent up because of
Yeah.
Right.
3 older brothers.
Well, I got to participate in the Huck Finn stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
A little bit.
I don't care what they think about that. We spent a lot of good time on the river.
I've never been so jealous in my life than of you, though.
I know right where you're going.
We're walking down to the fish illegally on the ditch, and Dad was with us. Anyway, he must have saw a flash or something, but there's a little culvert coming out, pouring water out of the ditch, I think towards the river, or pouring it. No, it's coming out. So anyway, he saw a flash or something. He said, "Chris, stick your lure down here." What'd you have, that much line out?
Maybe.
Stuck his line down and had a little grate on it. Anyway, stuck it between the grates, and boom, here comes this fish. And it was 16, 17 inch fish. And I'm sitting there going, "Dad, you could have told me."
First fish I ever caught.
Oh, that's a beauty.
That was my first fish.
Your first fish was a slobber knocker.
It was a slobber knocker.
Yeah.
Ruined ya.
And he took some not brown paper but some tan paper after we got it home and got it cleaned out and stuff, and he took a red Sharpie or whatever was back then, but I can remember it because I packed that piece of paper around with me till I was grown and maybe beyond. But he traced that fish and even drew the fins on it, and
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that ditch, and your dad had come, was visiting,
Yeah.
and I went down with your dad. I think you guys had gone down.
Me and Jeff went down and
You
hit the
guys went
pond.
down and you caught fish, and there was that was back when the Missoulian was full size, and you
Yeah.
had several of those trout were the whole length of the Missoulian,
Yeah.
Both caught our limit.
and you caught your limit. Both of you caught your limit. So I remember we had a really awesome fish fry.
Yeah, it was a
But
great fish fry.
anyway, you got home, and your dad says, "I'd like a piece of that action." And so we went down and we did really good, but it was on the wrong side of the no trespassing sign, so that made the fishing a lot better. And again, statute of limitations, but that's just a fact. Fishing's always better on the wrong side of a no trespassing. So is hunting, by the way.
It was back when there was nothing but just a little bitty cabin down there,
Yeah.
and nobody was ever there.
But tell a story about when they saw you down there and came to.
Oh,
to
Chris and I?
find-
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Ab
put the run
West.
on you or something, and
Ab West
And his dog.
and
Yeah.
his horse and his big gun.
Yeah, and his big gun. Well, it was getting towards afternoon, evening, and anyway, at a certain point, the sun will reflect that line when you cast that Nep's lure. You were casting it, and the sun would catch it from the Double Fork or whatever the main building that Ab was at. He saw that and knew that there were fishermen down there. So he drove the back road around and stuff, and boy, by the time we realized that he was coming, we had fish laying all over the place. And anyway,
did.
and then you wore something red, Ruster red.
T-shirt or something. Yeah.
But anyway, he didn't blend in at all. I said, "Get your butt across the river." And we gathered fish and took off and tossed them across the river. And the only saving grace, I don't think that healer that Ab West had liked water very well. He'd run to that water, and I thought, man, we got across, and we just, before he stopped, we dove behind a log, and I mean, we weren't very far away from him, but we were across the river.
He laid over the top of me to
I
cover
laid
that
on
red
top of him
t-shirt.
because of the red t-shirt. And so we're stacked double in there, and he's yelling. I think he knows we're close. He's yelling. He says, I got my pistol here, and you stand up, I'm gonna pepper you guys and stuff. And anyway, scared the snot out of us.
Which of course would make you stand up, so he'd shoot
Right.
you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, what
makes
kind of deal is
sense.
that?
How stupid.
Make us a better deal.
And that's like you say, I knew Tucker really well then. And so by the time he drove off, he probably spent, it seemed like he spent 15 minutes there, but it was probably 5 minutes. But anyway, that dog pacing back and forth, and I think, man, if that dog comes across, we're done. And if he sees this shirt, we're done. And, we just laid stock still. Finally, he had enough, and he drove off. And we waited, because I thought, you could drive off and turn around. And I was paranoid, and that pistol scared me half to death. And so anyway, we laid there an extra 5 minutes, and then we finally said, okay, now we're gonna get up, and he's gonna be waiting for us at the Tucker Crossing. I just know he is. And so we gotta come in from the backside of the Tucker Crossing. So I took you on quite a hike. I mean, we went all the way over to the West Side Channel, hiked up the West Side Channel, came down that other channel, and came in from there.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to look like we'd been coming from the
Well, the hike was no problem. I had lots of adrenaline going.
Oh,
Yeah. How old were you guys?
teenagers.
Yeah, 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah.
I was. I remember we were here, it was an unusual thing because we were here with my dad. It was a trip we'd all come. And I remember you and him going down there, and you limited out.
Yeah, we did
Both
good
of you
too.
guys did. We tore the slough up that day.
Red and
That's
white
that's like, what, 30, 40 fish?
Yeah, what were the limits back then? I don't know
10.
if there were 5 or 10.
Well, I know we had
Probably did.
limits, and I know that
They were all
Mom made it.
sizable.
We had one of the best fish fries we'd ever had.
Oh man, fed a lot of people.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
good.
That's great.
Well, it was fun. I remember it too.
Well, he had us dead to rights. He got so close to us. Usually, I knew a couple spots where I could usually see a flash or whatever. And whenever I was fishing, whenever I caught a fish, I'd always look and see what I could see, and try and there was quite a few times we escaped easy. You see them coming running on a horse, and they're halfway there, and you pick up your fish and walk off, But I didn't catch him. He came in with his strap, and boy, he was cooking.
I thought I had it in my head he was on a horse.
No.
That was something.
Well, I always laughed at later as an adult when I'd hear Charles Schwab or one of the representatives down there, his manager that's still his manager, talking about how that was never a fishery until he bought the place and improved it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Wrong,
Barney, but that ain't right.
For sure.
Yeah, it was a pretty good fishery, all right.
It was the best. Yeah, I can remember fishing it one day and looking up, like you say. You taught me well. Catch a fish, look around. I got caught one day and hear somebody yelling, and I started hot footing it for the river. And the guy's going, hey, you got to see this. I turn around and okay, he was moving that way too. And so finally we end up meeting up, and this goofy bugger from Missoula picks up a fish out of the grass and holds its lip on his belt, and the tail was bent over on the ground, and he'd done it with a Zebco and a plastic grasshopper.
Oh, gee.
That place wasn't a fishery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Julie and Stacy going and hitting Rock Creek and coming back with
Yeah, they liked that rock.
Yeah.
Creek.
coolers full of fish. And
Yeah.
I asked Stacy one time, will you take me over there? No. That's why.
No, never got
I looked at Julie. She just went,
So there's a hunting story that I need to tell, and it's Jeff's hunting story, and so I'm going to tell my version of it, and
Cool.
he can. It was when he was first venturing to bow hunt, and Joni and I are having dinner. We in our house here, and we had Jim and Glenda York up for dinner, and we're just sat down for dinner, and we're just beginning to eat, and all of a sudden, clump, 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 clump up the stairs comes Jeff. I got an elk! I got an elk! I got an elk! And he is covered in blood from head to toe. And he shot this elk, and somehow he thought it was dead, and it turned out that it wasn't dead, and he lost or broken his other arrows, and he had no more arrows. And so he's got to finish this damn elk off, and he gets in a wrestling match with this elk. And he's trying to kill it by cutting its throat with his Ruana. And he finally gets it done, but he's way up in, he's above the grain field, as I remember.
Yeah, Bee Springs. Right?
Bee Springs,
Yeah,
up
no
in,
before there were any roads.
before there are any roads there, so.
Yeah.
We let him clean up. I think we fed him, and then we went up, Jimmy and I, to help him get his elk out.
Yeah, you got me started in archery, really. You went to college, and Dad had bought me a 45-pound coast-to-coast
Recurve, yeah.
recurve bow. And I'd go down to the savage pit and I'd shoot it, but I didn't have any broadheads, so it wasn't like I was going to be a master hunter the first year. So anyway, it kind of sat for a couple years. I shot it some, got pretty proficient at shooting it. But anyway, then Danny went to college, and while he was at college, I think it was for Christmas anyway, here he comes packing back 3 arrows, and they got broadheads on them. And man, I felt like I won the lottery. I mean, here's 3 wooden arrows with nice sharp broadheads, and they were sharpened up really, really nice, sharper than I could get them. And man, I can go hunting now. I can actually go try and kill a deer, you know. So anyway.
And what did you have for camouflage?
Well, I had nothing for camouflage, but Danny, again, he had a coat about like the plaid you're wearing, except for it was green and dark. And I said, can I borrow your coat? I don't have any camouflage, but that looks like camouflage to me. So I borrow his coat. Now I've got camouflage. Take off and drive up there, and actually came in the top way above the grain field, parked at the grain field, and then went around the corner and worked my way up that steep ridge. Got to the top of the ridge and heard an elk bugle in the Bee Springs, and I went, there's elk here. So I started working my way across. And anyway, there weren't cow calls at that time. I just had a little pipe. Anyway, so I didn't think I wanted to use it very much because I didn't think I sounded much like that elk sounded. So I'm wandering along in there, but I'm just still hunting, basically going slow. And all of a sudden I hear a branch crack and I see a horn, and poof, off goes this bull elk right down into the bottom of Bee Springs. And I went, oh, there was my chance. But I knocked an arrow and I stood there. And all of a sudden I hear brush cracking, and here's a cow and a calf, and he had run past a cow and a calf and spooked them, and they came up, and that cow started feeding right in front of me at 25 yards. I'm sitting there going, do you believe this? So I just real quiet start to pull that bow back, and of course you don't realize things. It had a little brush base to it that you slid that arrow across.
The rest.
And you never, the rest, and you never, when you're practicing, you never hear that. But out in the still, it sounded like I was pulling it across a piece of sandpaper. I mean, and of course the elk lifts his head and looks, and I go, oh man. So anyway, I draw back and I shoot, and that elk was being a little bit alerted, so the elk lunged, and so I hit the elk back liver-wise, probably, maybe about liver-wise. Anyway, and so it takes off down over the hill, and it's just deathly quiet. But the calf had gone didn't know what was going on, and the calf stayed in visibility for, I don't know, a little while, and the calf would look down the hill, and then look back, you know, and then pretty soon it wandered a little farther, so I decided I'll just try and, you know, maybe if I can just be really stealthy, I'll keep this calf in sight. Anyway, that lasted not very long, and the calf ran off. But when I got over to where the calf was, I could hear breathing, and it was labored breathing. You could hear gurgling, you know. Well, I think that's that elk, and I think that elk is dying. It might take a while. So as long as I could hear that gurgling, well, it got later, and it got later, and it got later, and pretty soon it's getting dark. I'm like, man, I gotta do something. So I drop into that draw, and Bee Springs is one of those places where real steep, and there's just a little creek that comes out the side there, and it's not even real level there. So she'd kind of made her stand there. And of course, I was nothing but excited, and I shot the first arrow as soon as I saw her, which was just throwing an arrow at her. I shot right over her back and stuck it into a lodgepole. And the second arrow, I don't exactly know what happened to it. I think it winged it off its back, and it went sailing off through the trees. But she never left that spot. And when I get close to her, you know, we were farm kids, and we were used to yelling at animals, and they'd move. You know, get out of here! So I'm doing everything. I'm cussing at her. I'm yelling at her, trying to get her to move, because I know if she moves, she'll bleed. She'll run out of blood and die. And she would not. And she started grinding her teeth at me. When she grinded her teeth, I figured, oh, good grief, now we're in a war. So I thought, well, if I could get her to move a little, maybe I could get that broadhead. And she had made her stand. So I took the Ruana and kept a tree between me and her and got right up to her. And then I tried to do this jump behind the tree thing, you know.
I'm trying to imagine this in my mind.
You know, you're by yourself. And I finally look at the knife and get, well, if I go to that far side and I swipe it really hard, I might get that jugular. And so finally I got pretty good blood flow. But like I say, I mean, the elk's neck's right here and I'm right here, and it just washed me. It just washed me. So I can imagine what I looked like. So, and I was hot by then. It was early and it was hot. So I had that camouflage coat of yours wide open, and it seemed like everything but your coat wasn't too bad. So anyway.
Joni will be the judge of that.
I think we threw that one away.
So anyway, she finally takes a step, and I go, get out of here, get out, come on, go, go, go. And then she took off, and so I just stayed right on her tail, and as soon as she hit the ground, I straddled her. She tried to get up and threw me off, but I got her again. And anyway, so here I am. I don't know how old I am, but I'm excited. Of course, I got it out as quick as I can and take off out of there. Well, I went, how am I going to mark this? I don't have marking ribbon. How am I going to come back and find this elk in the dark? Because I know we're going to come get it tonight. So it smelled pretty ripe, and you know, it had been shot back a little bit. And I thought, maybe that's enough. I got Danny's coat. It's pretty clean. I'll just hang it in the trees here. We'll find Danny's coat. We'll have flashlights.
Camouflage.
Camouflage.
Well, I know how old you were. You were 21,
Yeah.
because we were married,
Yeah.
and we were living in a little house.
Yeah.
I remember you hugging in the chicken.
Oh, okay.
You cut a hole in the roof of the ceiling of the chicken to get your deals to where you can hang them in there.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I remember about it.
Well, anyway, we go back up there. Did Bruce go with us too?
I think he did.
I think it was Bruce and Jim York
I
and
think
you, and of course it was dry, and that thing was a hard thing. We were pulling a whole elk out of the bottom of these springs, trying to pull it right down the creek to get
Did
to
you
the
have any
road.
trouble finding it?
Well, yeah, we go up that bottom, you know. Well, I think it's here. You know, use your nose. Oh, I can smell elk. But I mean, this whole thing smells like elk. But it's more than just that
Well, I
elk.
didn't go with them on that one.
Well, we'll find that coat. That coat's right here. It's hanging in a tree. We had the elk calf, we found the elk and got it all tied up and ready to pull out before we found the code.
Yeah, we found the code on the way out, I think.
Yeah, found the code on the way out.
But the flashlights that we had in those days,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
they were,
It was like a candlelight.
Yeah, exactly right. About 2 candle power.
yeah, nothing.
But I was glad we had everybody there. It seemed like that was the hardest pulling out.
That was a hard pull.
Got that thing down.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of it with
Glad I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of it with the Ruana knife out laying on its back and the bow and arrows. Stacy and I went back. Stacy wanted to shoot that calf. And I said, well, it could still be there, you know, wait for Mama. So we went back and I got the arrows. And I don't think I ever found that one thing off. Felt bad about that.
But that was the thing that started your whole bow hunting
Yeah.
career. That adrenaline. That,
Anybody else that had ended it, that was just getting started.
Didn't know you had to actually fight the elk to get
No,
it, get it in your freezer.
That's pretty good, yeah. So, and I matured as a, physically. Like Tim said, I wish I'd have been in school one more year. I'd have had a really good senior year had I had an extra year.
I wish I
And we
could.
just matured.
I wish I could remember the way Bruce told that story. All I can remember is the smile he would get on his face when he told it. He thought that was pretty cool.
But I can imagine, and I think I still remember your face when I walked through the door.
I'm sure.
But I don't think I walked through the door. I think I burst.
Yeah.
Covered in blood.
It was our
So you're
sliding,
having a dinner party. Guess what?
where our house was then, we had a sliding glass door where our kitchen door is now, basically. And our table was right there. That was the dining room. And the kitchen was just off a little bit. And that
Where
was
the pantry is now.
where the pantry is now. And so
The one back
the
kitchen.
sliding glass door came right to the dining room table.
And then watch
Here we go.
this
yeah.
match.
I can't remember if you came home first or if you went to Dan and Jones first, but it was very much the same thing. I'm bursting through the door, covered in blood. I got it, elk. I think you came home second because you said, and Danny and the guys are going to go with me. We're taking off now. But I wanted to let you know.
I think that's exactly right.
I think that was the year before I got out of the army, came home.
I don't remember how I got out of that, but I must have been someplace doing something.
Oh, yeah, probably.
You probably were. You
You're probably in school that.
were probably at college by then.
Well, if we were married,
Well, if you were
guys got
married, we
married
were
a month
married, too.
after us,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
So it
Yeah,
was that.
you were
That's-
missing
that's
somehow. I
I
don't
was
know.
missing
Maybe you were
somehow.
milking or something.
Yeah, somebody had this milk.
Yeah, you were. Yeah,
That's
it
the
could
first
be. You
fall
were
we
probably
together.
milking.
Yeah.
We got married in the spring and it
Yeah.
was the fall, so,
Oh, 77.
yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, I think Jeff and I ought to take turns, and maybe Jeff should start, but the bull that I killed up there in Jeff's No Tell'em Creek
Oh,
is quite an adventure.
Yeah.
And I need to, I want to make a short story out of that. I haven't decided whether I should try to make a poem out of it because I'm doing poetry, but it's worthy of refining and getting right. But I'd like to hear Jeff's perspective of it before I try to put mine together.
well, I'd found this area bow hunting and it contained a pretty good amount of elk and it was steep. You drop down into this bottom and you cross this bottom and you go up about two finger ridges and then you head up this steep hill and it's steep and you work your way up this steep. So I said, well, once we get to the top of this hill, we'll split and I'll you stay with the draw until the saddle and wait for me at the saddle and I'll circle around and possibly, you'll either bump something at the saddle maybe down to me or I'll bump something to you. And we had snow and so anyway, we worked our way up this ridge, just doing a regular elk hunt, rifle and going slow and watching, and everything worked out. Now this, you know, we didn't carry walkie-talkies. We didn't communicate in the hills at all, other than you show up. You know, if you shoot something, you might shoot an extra shell to help them find it, whatever. But anyway, we worked all the way up, and we worked all the way to the top of the peak. And this peak, you can see 3 different lakes off the back side of it. It's pretty neat. So anyway, we got to the saddle. We're about done, and said, well, we're going to hunt our way back, because we'd crossed elk tracks, and they weren't super fresh, but we'd crossed elk tracks, and we knew there were elk in there. So I said, well, let's just do opposite this time. You know this ridge now, because that's the first time you were in there. I said, you know this ridge now. You're going to be able to, you know, hunt this ridge back, and you're not really hunting the same way with the wind, and the wind's better now, and these elk are moving. And so I think you got a pretty good chance, and I'll have a pretty good chance if I go to the far side of the saddle and hunt the next ridge down. And so there was elk tracks all over the place, but I got to the far side of the saddle and got into some pretty fresh elk tracks. And anyway, I started working down, and I don't know. They're working down the ridge, but they're working on the dark side of the ridge, the heavy timbered side. And so I dropped a little farther down into that ridge side, and I'm trying to remember if I heard them go. I heard some twigs snap, but I wasn't convinced they were heavy enough to be elk. But anyway, it was a count of about 30 seconds, and kaboom, the gun goes off. And I think it went off twice. And I went, wow, I think Tim just shot something, because there's nobody else in here. So I worked my way, and I said, well, I'll just follow the elk tracks. So I followed the elk tracks around, and we're going, and all of a sudden they turn right back to where Tim should have been. I went, gosh, I think he shot an elk. So I crest the hill, and I wahoo and don't get an answer. Well, it might be farther than you think. And work my way around on the elk tracks. And anyway, wahooed, and I heard you wahoo, yeah. And he said, yeah, I got a big one. It's a nice one. I said, and anyway, well, I'll just follow you. I'm going to follow the elk tracks. So, and I followed the elk tracks down, and here's all of a sudden, there's bark, and there's green limbs laying on top of the snow. And I said, did your elk have all his horns? Did he crash? And he said, no, he's missing one. He's missing a brow tine. And I said, I think it's right here. And I said, we got snow. I said, it's probably laying in the snow right here. And I said, I'll look. So I looked and made circles and couldn't find it. So I put a little piece of ribbon on the tree, and then went in and we processed that elk. Well, of course, you shot it probably 2-ish in the afternoon.
2:30.
Yeah. And of course, that time of year it's dark by 4:35. So, but I didn't have any fear. I mean, I'd been in there quite a few times, but it was my absolute 100% my fault the route was.
That's why I wanted to tell this story. I wanted to get that on tape.
Well, we took, you know, I don't know if Tim liked it, but we always took packs with us. And I always hunt with a pack. And so, I mean, your first trip out, you're not just carrying anything, you're carrying a good amount of weight, you know. And I think that's the only thing we argued about, is you wanted to take that cape and horns. And I said, well, okay, and I'll take as much meat as I can carry. So I had mine loaded down with meat, and you had that army pack board. And they're uncomfortable things. Anyway, we retraced that whole cape and horns on that elk. And of course, a big elk like that, those weigh 70 to 80 pounds, you know. So he didn't have a light load. And so I was thinking, well, I know if we cut up this steep ridge and fight that for, 200 yards, we'll be to the top of the ridge. And I think we could just follow the dark side of this down just on the creek side, and we'll get to the bottom. Well, that creek, I don't know, it got dark on us, and it split, and pretty soon we're doing everything by flashlight, and not good flashlights either, really, still. Anyway, we got to the bottom down there, and we packed too much. And another thing that, again, my fault, is I had emptied out, and I packed enough meat that I couldn't pack anything else, like first aid kit or anything like that. And so we had nothing basically other than some food stuffed in our pockets and this elk on our back. And I basically had the front half of the elk and he had the cape and the horns. And we get down to that bottom and go to do this creek crossing, which wasn't I don't know, any creek crossing is a little bit dangerous, but this one had some pretty slippery rocks on it and stuff, and we were trying to keep ourselves dry. Because we didn't know exactly, I'd gotten pretty turned around, and it had actually been dark and been raining and snowing on us. And so by the time we got to the bottom, I was a little bit unconfident as to where we were. So anyway, we go to cross that creek, and I don't know if a big rock went under you or what, but all of a sudden there's this big splash. And he said, I just sprained my ankle really, really bad. Oh, Tim. So we got across the creek, and he said, I don't think I can carry this weight. And I said, well, don't worry about the weight. Let's see if we can get out here without the weight. So you stay here, and I'll go take a scout trip. And I'll leave my meat here, and I'll just take a big loop and another big loop and see if I can find cut stumps. Because there's cut stumps in this drainage, and I know where we are when we find those cut stumps. So I took a loop and no cut stumps, and I took another loop and I made it a big loop, no cut stumps. And it's dark. I mean, it's still, the clouds are thick and low, and so I just finally said, you know what? I just am not confident to know where we are, and the more we walk, the worse off we're going to be. We got elk meat here, we got Tim hurt here, we got all this. So if I remember right, we kind of worked our way up and found a log that was big enough to kind of shelter our one side. And then you were wet, and so we stuffed you kind of down into that pocket, smoothed that out and stuffed you into that pocket. And then I laid as close to you as I could, kind of layered up, and decided to spend the night. And we were wet and cold. That's just all there was to it. And sometime during the night, that finally the clouds broke, and I saw the ridge line, and I knew right where we were. I thought, oh, we're not off that far, you know. So I was real happy when the moon showed that. But you know, his ankle's going from this size to this size to this size, and I don't know, Trudy, by the time you got into the emergency room, it must have been huge. But anyway, so you finally, in the morning, we kind of worked and walked and worked and walked, got to where you felt like you could motate. And I said, well, you just go, and I'll just keep pace, and I'll take the meat with me, and we'll just come back and get those head and horns. And of course, I had bow hunted that some, and I had apparently taken Amos with me on a trip.
Just not too long before, like
Yeah.
a week or two before.
But you know, kids,
he
they're
was
in their own world.
14 or
Yeah,
so.
13 or 14. He didn't show he cared at all when we were driving up there as far as how to get there, you know. And I was probably telling him, but anyway, so
I
Poor
thought he was
Trudy.
older than that.
poor Trudy, she's got no real information as to where we are, except that we're hunting Bush Creek and somewhere out in the Upper East Fork where we don't normally hunt. And but Amos has been there, and Julie said Amos has been there.
Well,
So,
I think Danny called
yeah.
and said, do you know where they're at? And I said, no, but Amos does. And Danny said, Amos?
Amos.
does? And I said,
You're Amos?
yeah. And he said, are you sure? And I said, Amos, are you sure? He said, yep. I said, yeah, Amos knows. So you take Amos.
So Trudy, bless her heart, loaded up horses. She figured we'd been successful and we needed help and stuff. And anyway, I don't know, it must have been close to 11 or noon by the time we finally traipsed out of there. And we just about met. I mean, you'd just gotten there.
We had just
Yeah,
just,
just
pulled
gotten
up.
there when you guys.
We were just
Crawling
pulling in
up
when you
onto the
guys were
road.
getting to your truck.
Yeah, we were crawling up that stupid hill. And you were hurt. I mean, you were hurt. I was pretty
Chipped a
impressed.
tooth.
It was I'd broken my ankle one time in recent motocross, and we had to cut the boot off to get my foot out of it. Every once in a while, my ankles were probably one of my poorer physical features. But I can't remember if we went to the doctor, if he just took me home, and I felt sorry for myself and put ice on it. But but it was,
When you left me, you were going to the emergency room,
yeah,
but I don't know that you.
yeah, I don't know if we did or not.
Yeah, I wanted to, but he said,
Oh, is that right?
let's go home.
Think we put ice on
I
it.
just wanna go home.
But it was blue and purple and big. What I remember about that and the hunt part and all of what Jeff had to say, there were a couple things that really impressed me. Number one, the gathering the help, and Amos did such a good job of remembering where to go,
Yeah, I
which
couldn't
was
believe that.
really amazing. So here's Trudy coming up and the crew. I mean, there's probably more than one rig, you guys.
Yeah, I think we had several
Nothing.
We
rigs,
had
But
a trailer full of
At least
horses.
two.
at least two.
But the thing that impressed me the most, there were a couple things. One was it was a miracle that we survived the night, because we could have easily died of hypothermia, and we had a couple funny moments because we could say, okay, here's the thing, if we start, let's keep talking and keep visiting, and if we start acting kind of stupid, we better get up and try to figure out how to generate some heat walking or doing something, well, that don't work too good if you're lame. But the other thing that doesn't work too good is we're brothers, and we also, neither one of us are too convinced that the other one's really rational all the time anyway. So how do we know when we start talking goofy, right?
Yeah.
You're talking goofy, we gotta get
Goofy all the time.
So we had some laughs. I think, Jeff, did you shiver hard enough to chip a tooth during that evening?
Yeah, and actually.
One of you did.
Yeah, and I, made a story out of that. I was eating Skittles, and the Skittles probably broke my tooth, but
Well, we ended up, and I
We
don't
ended
remember that we had a lot
saying
of,
that we shivered
things.
so
I
hard
remember
we
we
broke
had a
the
bag of Skittles, and that was supper.
yeah,
Skittles.
Skittles, and they were, like Jeff said, they were pretty frozen. And but the thing that impressed me the most, I think, about that whole thing, and we decided, Trudy especially wanted to get me out of the mountains. These guys were not much horse people. And without Trudy or somebody wrangling the horses, that probably wasn't the great idea. But Jeff was, what an animal. He goes, well, I'll take these guys back in, and we'll go in and get the rest of the elk, and we'll go get your horns and your hide, and we've got everybody here. There's no sense in going home. We got everybody here. Let's go. And it was quite a crew. I was trying to remember Chris, I think Davey, you, Bruce. The crew.
All of us
Yeah.
were there.
That crew was there. And so, but the crew needed somebody to guide them.
right.
And I just can't believe, because, that's where we went and I caught my big fish, was that Chain of Lakes. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the ridge. But I was not familiar with that Jeff's way of accessing it, or Jeff's way of unaccessing it. I wasn't familiar with that at all. And that got to be pretty difficult. But Jeff led that crew back, and not only did he go up and get the rest of that elk, did they get the rest of the elk, got my cape and my horns, but he wandered around up there in the tracks and everything because the snow was there, found the tree, found his ribbon where he had left the mark, and well, that antler ought to be there, and found my broken brow tine stuck in the tree, and brought that home on top of everything else. So, and I decided, and it's not the biggest bull in the world, but I decided that bull damn near killed me, so I'm going to put him on the wall. And that's the one that's in our vacation rental right now.
The only thing you got wrong is actually Danny and you and I and somebody else went and got the cape and the horns,
Yeah.
and everybody else left. And then it was the next day when everybody came together to go get it.
Was
That's
it
right.
a day later?
Yeah, a day
Okay.
later.
Now that you say that, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
'Cause
that
I
I was unclear about that.
Yeah.
So
I got in there and we got the cape and the horns and we got out, and I just was.
We
I
made a
was
big
spent.
we
I
made a
were
big party
exhausted.
out of it the next day. We
Okay.
got a,
You know,
got
I
a
can
group.
do
that
this
makes more
tomorrow.
sense to me, because I'm sitting here thinking you were.
I think
well, I always
Spencer
thought-
got involved, and the next day.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was.
Okay.
I was so spent by then that Danny drove out and I slept. And I
Okay.
worried about the fishing game a little bit, but you had warned them,
Right.
about what was happening. So they knew what was going on, no problem.
Well, we never called search and rescue.
Quite an
No.
adventure.
We formed a search and rescue.
Yeah.
No, and then the next day, you know, it's still quite a day, because you gotta gain all that elevation of Fish
Yeah.
Peak.
Yeah.
And then you ride under the top of Fish Peak and you process it in the elk, and then you're bringing it back down.
And I remember the discussion, why would anybody hunt in a place like
Yes.
this?
Sure you do.
I think you got cussed a little bit.
Well, that was one of the most difficult elk we ever got out.
It was a tough one.
Well, you were looking at the display that we have with the Ruanas. Those teeth that are on that
Or from that elk.
are from that elk.
Well, that's cool. That's good.
Oh, I thought you made my earrings out of that elk.
That's pretty neat.
I think that was.
That's not the only time Jeff spent the night
No,
in
that's
the
true.
wilderness.
Spent the night with Danny.
Yeah. We were hunting up here on our property, basically, in Bee Springs and our draw above the grain field there. And I shot an elk, and there was I think there was 3 bulls or 4 bulls.
Yeah, at least 3.
At least 3. Anyway, I dropped one and go to it, and Jeff says, I'm gonna follow these a little bit. And it isn't very long, and I hear kaboom. Okay, we got 2 now, right? So I go find Jeff, and he says, oh, he was just, and the elk was on a ridge,
Right.
and Jeff is below this elk, and there's a almost a little cliff there, and the elk is peering over the edge, looking down to see what's going on. He heard Jeff or something, and Jeff's got a shot right between his eyes, right? Well, the elk's head is like this. Well, he just, and that bullet hit just perfectly, but it didn't penetrate the skull.
No.
But it cut that
Blue hair all over.
blue hair all over and blood everywhere.
Oh, that head wound bleeds like
Just
crazy.
bleeds like crazy. So I get over there, okay, well, we'll just follow this bugger, and we've got a nice blood trail all the way to the top of the hill, all the way to the bottom of Gold Creek,
Oh no.
all the way to the
The
top of
other
the
side.
next ridge, and
Okay.
again, it's getting dark 30.
Yeah.
And we're over there, and we stop on a west-facing
Yeah.
slope when it finally gets so dark we can't
And
function
it's
anymore.
steep.
And so we decide we have to spend the night, and we end up doing that.
Did you have matches though?
I did,
Yeah.
That was good.
but I don't think we could start a fire.
Well,
I
we
rem-
found a tree well. We got a little fire built.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. Yeah, because I burned myself.
You burned yourself. You
Yeah.
rolled into the fire when you were
Rolled into the
sleeping.
fire,
Yeah.
But one other thing we did, we had Charlie Craig with us. Remember, he drove his
Oh, that's right. He
Rig
had his
down to
yeah,
the phosphorus. Is that a phosphorus mine?
yeah, and on the mine road there. Yeah.
He drove that rig down, and then we took the trail until we crossed where picked up the elk tracks. So we had Charlie Craig. I think he spent the night in the cabin at
I think he
the
did.
phosphorus
Yeah.
mine. We had people spread out all over the place, which happened a couple times. So anyway, but yeah. So Danny had matches and got a fire going, and we were fairly comfortable, as comfortable as you could be, I guess. But anyway, it was a long, long night, and at some point, I was hunting in those lacrosse rubber boots with air bobs. I really loved them. They were heavy, but man, they had traction like crazy. But anyway, I had gotten sideways and taken one too many rolls, and all of a sudden woke up with that rubber melting into my skin.
Oh no.
I gotta get my boots out.
Ooh.
So, anyway, next morning get up, and we had vim and vigor, but we didn't have as much as we could have had. So we took off after that elk, and we got up. I don't know. We weren't within sight of that road, but we were within a quarter mile of that road. How many gunshots went off?
Oh, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Yeah,
I think.
it was, and we just looked at each other and said, "That's our elk." You know, we were only following one set of tracks by
Yeah.
then. So we turned around and headed home.
Somebody up that had driven to the end of the road by the Willow Lookout
Yeah,
had gone down that ridge.
Hunted down it.
Yeah,
yeah.
hunted down that side.
Right place at the right time.
Right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Jeff ever left his matches after
I'm sure he didn't. I never did either.
Yeah.
I've got Bic lighters and matches and all kinds of fire
I
starting
had, I
stuff.
carried
The little scrape
10
thing,
different
scrape the
types of
magnesium
ways
in
to
and.
start a fire and never ever had to.
Well, I tell people, you know, I love my brother, but I never. It's not my idea of a great time to hug him all night long. Just trying to stay in a war.
Probably saved both your lives.
Well, yeah, probably did.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. I can tell you from our perspective, you know, to pull up there and see you guys coming out,
Relief.
coming up the hill and out of the trees was pretty big relief.
Well, you said you were spent, and I'll tell you what, and I've been injured a few times, but I was puny for a week.
Yeah.
And I limped around for a while on that deal.
Was that just a sprain, or was there a break? Do you remember?
I don't recall because I had gone to the doctor one time when we were playing town team basketball and I rolled my ankle really bad and it did the same thing. It blew up like a grapefruit and turned all yellow and purple. And I went to the doctor that time and he says, this is just a really bad sprain. You broke your ankle a while ago though. So I don't know whether that was the one racing motocross or the elk or whatever, but and he said a lot of times a bad sprain is because it's tissue damage is worse than a break actually. So anyway, I was
Well,
pretty lame.
that was some tough country to be in with a, you know, I don't know why we didn't build you a crutch, or did we?
I had a stick. I made a stick. Yeah. I was an expert on crutches, and
You were still wet when you came out of there.
yeah.
So,
No drying off in that.
no. That's the last place to dry, is in a canyon bottom.
Yeah. Fortunate to be alive.
Well, I think too, and the way I remember it, you know, it was colder a lot when we stopped than it was when we got up to resume. And that's just a God thing, because had it stayed as cold as it was, we might not have survived.
Yeah. Yeah, when it broke that night, I knew we were going to survive, because for some reason when those clouds broke, it did. I think it raised 2 or 3 degrees.
I thought even more than that. Yeah.
Maybe more than that, but
Yeah.
it was cold.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's why I like to hug the fires. You guys wonder.
Yeah.
Stay with it. Stay close to the fire.
Stay close to the fire. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite hunting stories with Jeff that it ended up on a really good note, but it was kind of scary a little bit. Not for me. We always took turns playing dog when we went hunting, and we were just up there in the kind of the saddle on the south side of Section 15, and we like to hunt that ridge and the kind of the back side, this north side of that where it's brushy. And Jeff got down on there's that skid trail, and he says, crash through the brush there and let's see if we can put something out. And I was sneaking through the brush, and you can't sneak through that. You're breaking stuff all the time, but apparently I was doing a pretty good job of sneaking through there that time. I was more quiet than usual, and it was, have you ever been walking through the field and just about step on a pheasant and have it come out from under you? That was what this elk felt like. I was right on top of him, and he just explodes, and he's going so fast he ain't caring about his horns turning sideways for the trees. He's just busting through.
Just crash.
And he gets out onto the skid trail, and he turns and he's running. Jeff's timing is perfect. He's standing on the skid trail down the hill, and he's running. He coming right at him, and Jeff shoots him. Boom. The elk is still adrenaline, momentum, whatever. He's coming 100 miles an hour. Jeff short racks the next shot,
The old infield, yeah.
and he throws her up again, and he goes click, and the elk is coming right at him and falls down right in front of him.
How about from here to that
And I step out on the thing, and I hear this, wahoo! He just about have to go riding another one with his knife.
Yeah. He was coming like a freight train. Yeah.
Well, obviously I've got more than one, and I'm not gonna tell the one about walking in a circle back in Gold Creek when I was home on leave from the army and dressed in jeans and uninsulated army boots and got into waist deep snow. But
You had hypothermia.
the one that I think is appropriate to tell is the fact that you actually, I benefited from you being so upset over that fish. Because we were hunting, I think we were in the swamp rush
Mhm.
and got into elk. Never saw them, but he knew they were there. And he put me just in a little break and said, you lay here, you put your rifle over the top of your pack and I'll see you in a while. They'll come right through there. Boy, he wasn't gone 20 minutes. And this dang cow just stepped right into just the only break in there. And I dumped that elk,
Yeah.
just like he said. So he got me, was that my first elk?
I'm not sure.
It might have been. No different than the old man saying, here, put your lure right there.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. And then he talked me into killing a deer that same day, and I ended up milking for the rest of hunting season.
Yeah.
That's what happens
Yeah.
when you get them too early.
Yeah.
I think that was the
That
first
first day
day.
of hunting season.
Deer and elk, both in the first day, and then he.
You never want to be the first.
Here, Hoffman, here's your elk. Here, Hoffman, there's your deer. Here, Hoffman, there's the barn.
Well, didn't I remember sometime when I think you got your deer and your elk on the same
That was
day.
it.
That was
Yeah.
it,
Okay. Yeah.
That was-
Yeah. You were
Yeah.
done.
Oops, one weird thing about that is Dad, and maybe you, Danny, I don't know, and Tim, somehow you knew that we'd shot some animals. We didn't have voice contact at all.
No.
But anyway, we're hiking back to camp to get help, and we drive into camp, and here's that stupid deer laying there. Or was it the elk?
It had to be the elk because I think we ended up getting a truck and going back and getting
Yeah.
the deer because the deer was at the bottom of the long hill.
Yeah, it was down by the power line.
Down by the power lines, and that was such a rush that I left my Ruana sitting on that gut pile, and we had to go back
Yeah.
up and get it.
Yeah.
But somebody had gotten that elk and dragged it down to the road.
Yeah, that stupid elk was at camp before we were. I just always marveled at that. How in the world?
Well, I think we both paid for that drag more than once.
Well, they must have looked at the tag and knew it was yours.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, this is Hoffman's elk. Because I don't know, maybe you and Dad were hunting higher, I'm not sure.
I remember that vaguely, but I don't remember the details.
We were just, if I remember right, we were just right at the top of the long hill where it goes into the sagebrush.
Well, and then drop down, I know exactly where that saddle is, and you kind of quarter around. And
Right in the saddle.
Yeah.
But he told me, this is where the elk are gonna come through. You just lay here. He went and dogged her through the brush, and here she came. Just stopped dead right
Wow.
in the middle of the break. And
Yeah. Well, you did that, Danny, with somebody, I think it was a tinsman in the finger draws.
Yeah,
Just,
stay here,
yeah.
and it worked perfect.
Yeah.
He shot a monster.
Well, Jeff told us not too long ago the story about when he was guiding and somebody was successful and how he really took a lot of guff from his brothers for
mostly
letting,
Bruce, I think, on that.
letting somebody else get such a big elk. Do you remember anything about that?
Mule deer, wasn't it?
Mule deer.
Or,
It
I'm
was a
sorry.
mule deer, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big mule deer. I think it was bigger than the one I got hanging on my wall. So,
Some guy from,
Louisiana.
Louisiana, yeah.
I remember that it caused a big enough fight that Trudy thought we were all gonna blow up and not be
You
a
guys
family
were
anymore.
always fighting. It didn't work for me,
Yeah.
from my family, where what I
Yeah,
was
we-
used to.
We'd let blow, but you never held it, you always.
it was over as quick as it started was my thing.
Well, it was.
It was.
It was just a matter of young people being jealous of somebody that
Yeah.
Yeah.
that we didn't know, and it wasn't fair to Jeff at all because,
He was
he was,
Russ had hired him to do exactly what he was doing.
well, and I don't even know how much if Russ paid him or didn't pay him or what.
I
but
think we
the
might have.
thing was, part of it is, yeah, Jeff, would you help me guide I've got all these people here in
Yeah.
camp, and I need somebody I don't want to lose anybody, and I need somebody to help me. And of course, then Russ is always playing the big general, you know, here,
You do this and you do that.
you go here, and he probably was less qualified than anybody to do that, but he got a big kick out of it.
Well, it was his show.
It was a Section 15, and it was his, yeah. And so Jeff was, my recollection of it was, and I think I was also jealous and kind of disgusted that this guy shot this biggest deer in the hills, and now that deer wasn't there for any of us, the rest of us to kill. But the attitude was bad for us, because Jeff was just doing what Jeff was supposed to be doing. It's kind of like when you take somebody hunting and you just go, here, you sit on this deal, and I'll go here and I'll play dog and I'll do this. Well, it worked, and this goofball shoots this thing, and he was very fortunate to get it, because if I remember right, he had his scope turned all the way up, and
All the way up.
the thing was coming right at him, and all he knew was he could see hair when he looked through the scope. So, something like that.
That was back though when there wasn't much up there but forky horns.
Yeah, it had been dry for a big buck for quite a few years.
Yeah.
We hadn't shot anything real big. And anyway, and that guy, Russ gave me 2 guys to guide, and one of them was in the worst shape and one of them was in the best shape. And he said, well, you get this guy to, Dave, you drive Jeff and his hunters over, and you get this guy where he can see some country and just dump him out, and we'll get him picked back up. And the other one, Jeff, you can hike back to camp with him. And this guy was, in a little better shape. And I said, yeah, that'll be no problem. So we got over there, and that guy, we were out there well before daylight. And there's just a little hump. Where's it at? It's just below the state land, below Appleberries. And there's just a little hump there. And then you can see the hillside. So I thought, well, it'd be good to set him up on that hillside. Sometimes they'll feed across there. He might get lucky. So, but it took us to go, I'd say it's 100 yards from the truck to that little point. It was well after daylight before we got to that little point.
Just took forever.
Just for that guy. And he was just about to die. And so we got him tucked in and got him over his pack and just said the same thing, wait here, a big animal's gonna run out and you're gonna get to shoot it, and all that. And then the other guy.
You had tracks, I take it.
No, it was summer.
Did you not then?
It was early season.
Early season, hot and dry. So, anyway, the other guy was in pretty good shape, and we took off and we had all that, and that's where Bastard Springs got its name. He was running out of gas about the time we hit the bottom of Bastard Springs, and he looks up at me, and I'm about 20 yards ahead of him, waiting for him. You little bastard! He said, you brought me in here just to show me that Louisiana shape isn't Montana shape. I understand.
I remember that now.
So we all got a big laugh out of that, and after that, it was all
After
It was
that, we
always,
did. It was on the
always
map then.
Bastard Springs.
Bastard Springs.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I remember you came home, and I don't remember the spread, but like you say, it's bigger. It's a bigger deer
Yeah,
than
it was-
almost any we've seen, and
Just all kinds
We
of
blamed-
points on it too, wasn't there?
Well-
Non-typical.
yeah, it was a
non-typical.
non-typical,
It was-
big,
it
big,
was-
big old muley.
It was a special deer.
Yeah, we blamed Jeff for the whole thing. And what are you doing, letting some dang fool from Louisiana shoot one of the best deer
The
ever?
thing I remember, the thing that bothered us the most is that guy was so ignorant about hunting and this. He had no
He
appreciation.
knew what he
had
had.
no idea what he had there.
Right.
No.
You know, he couldn't fathom how special that
Deer
animal was. You know.
But that was not Jeff's fault.
No, it wasn't Jeff's fault.
Well, and I come home, and I'm kind of excited because he got this big deer, but I'm kind of mad too,
Yeah.
and I know you guys are going to be hot at me. But I come through the door with a little bit of a smirk on my face because it was successful, Here, I told you guys I'd be a guide someday, and look at this, Man, did I get lit on.
I think it had to have been mostly Bruce, huh, Danny?
Yeah, we'll blame him since he's not here to defend
He was
himself.
pretty upset about it. He
I'm
talked
sure
about
you
it
had
a lot.
major part to
Well, I
play.
credit Mom with saving my life off of that one, because I'd graduated school and I was a pretty good wrestler and I'd feel in my oats, and my big brothers weren't as big as they used to be,
No, there
You
we
know,
weren't.
and I'm going to stand up to Bruce, and I'd had enough. I mean, you guys had really lambasted, and Bruce just kept on, wouldn't quit, and I finally said, "All right, that's enough." So you say anything else, I'm going to pop you in the mouth. And of course, he welcomed it,
Yeah.
That would have been just what he wanted to hear.
Game on.
Game on. So we're getting ready to fight, and Jen jumps between us. And she doesn't face me, she faces Bruce. And she said, "You will not. You will not." And I think she was afraid for my life also. I think she saved my life. So I wouldn't have, the amount of strength that guy had and adrenaline, I wouldn't have held my own with him.
Yeah.
I watched him punch the chopper more than once,
Yeah.
and it actually moved.
Well, that's when they were made of real metal, too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there was those. I remember that little barbecue. That was not one of our finest hours. It's fun to be able to laugh about it now, right?
Oh, yeah.
No permanent harm done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one thing Jeff mentioned that it was pretty special about our group. We could get pretty agitated and pretty worked up, but I think the folks did a good job of teaching us that you could blow and you could be pretty hot, but you could get over it quick too, and you'd be dang well better.
Well, and that's what I didn't. I didn't get that model till I got here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it, it saved my life. That's what I'd say. Is I saw it's okay to get upset, and it's okay to speak your mind and even yell a little bit,
But you need to let go.
but you let go of it when it's over and you move on from it right then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a story.
Well, and I know like Trudy's family was a little bit different because if they got crossways of each other, then sometimes it would be a year or two before they would thaw out a little bit. And so she's seeing this, and here we're just married, and young relationship, and she's thinking, holy mackerel, if what her experience would have been was completely different than our experience.
Right.
There was no, while it was significant at the time for that little moment, it was ultimately not a really big deal.
I remember one time Jen had asked me to help her with the bookkeeping at the creamery. We were at the creamery, and there was something wrong, and you guys were yelling, and it had blown up, and I just started crying. Dave grabbed me, took me to the bathroom because that was the only private place. And so Dave and I are in there, and he's telling me, "It's gonna be okay. This is." And I just thought the world was gonna end, and there's people knocking on the door because they needed to use the bathroom. So I don't think I could have survived this family without Dave. Helping me through some of those kind of things.
Yeah, the wives we bring in, you had quite a, wow. You didn't know you were marrying four of us.
Right.
Joan found out the hard way.
Yeah, I bet you did.
The first one.
Well, it was quite the little transition. I came from a family of all girls, and things were very different. I remember poor Julie feeling so sorry for her. I'm like, don't take that from them.
She was always able to hold her own.
Yeah, she was always like, oh, it'll be all right. I'm like, no, No, it won't.
I remember her commenting to me one of the first times that she was invited to dinner. And of course, Mom put out a loaf of bread, and she just put out a loaf of bread. We ate the loaf of bread.
Whole loaf.
About that fast.
And I'm going, like,
And then we were getting more, you know.
I couldn't believe the food you guys put away.
I pretty
Holy
much
cow.
could eat a jar of apple butter and half a loaf of bread coming home from school just about
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah,
Well, I
every day.
remember helping her set the table one day, and she goes, "Oh, just put out that loaf of bread." I said, "The whole thing?" She goes, "Yeah." I went, oh my gosh.
Well, it was, I think, tradition. Grandma Marie always had way more to eat than anybody needed. You know, when we go to her house, and then Mom always fixed our big meal was at noon. And speaking of the Smiths and the relatives and whatnot, Dad always liked to tell a story about Grandma and her garden. You know, you'd have Grandma's vegetable garden. She'd have a few flowers here and there, but mostly it was a vegetable garden. And when you sat down to eat, there was always plenty. There was always plenty. And Dad would say, you go down to Aunt Ruth's now, and you'd like to starve plumb to death. Because there's all these flowers everywhere, but there's no vegetables anywhere. And then you go in, and he used to tell a story about Del Connor. Emmett, there would be always one extra pork chop or one extra steak or one extra whatever they were fixing. And Emmett would all be in the head of the household, would always go, well, nobody wants that steak, and he'd reach out and grab it. And he said one day the Del Connors had been there, done that enough times, and he was kind of waiting for things to happen. And then old Emmett started to pull his move and say, well, nobody. And he says, yeah, by God, I do. And he beat him to it. He said, Emmett's face just fell.
Never got invited back. Right?
kind of a Dad liked telling that story. He'd say,
Yeah.
yeah, you go down to Aunt Ruth, you might starve to death, but you will never starve to death at Grandma Marie's house.
Her coffee pot never ever got empty.
How
How
that
did
little
that
pot
happen?
could keep the coffee in it.
Well, by the time I brought Ginny up here, it would have been 79.
Right.
You guys had mellowed out some.
Good thing she probably would have taken run for it.
Yeah. Well, the first time I was ever at Grandma Marie's dinner table, I didn't know the rules, of course. You don't say no when the food comes around. And I just, never ate a lot of potatoes, so I politely took a tiny little bit of mashed potatoes, and there was all this other food I saw coming around the table, so I wasn't going to take very much of anything. I was seated at the honored spot next to Grandpa Spence, and he said, "Oh, I didn't get enough spots there." I'm going, "Thank you."
You
And
fixed your
so,
plate.
so because of all that, by the time dessert came around, Grandma had made lemon pie, and I was pretty excited. I like lemon pie, but I was so stuffed. I just said, "Oh, no, thank you." And Chris is going, "Oh, well, maybe I'll take just a little
You
piece."
can't say no. That's funny.
I'll help you eat your sheets.
Yeah.
You don't say no. And then a couple of years later, I was pregnant with Crystal, and we were up there, and Uncle Dan was there that time, and he had brought a jar of pickled pig's feet. Well, I wasn't going to eat that. I was pregnant. That didn't sound good at all. So I politely took the jar and just passed it on to Chris, and didn't take any. Uncle Dan didn't say anything, but then Chris took the jar and tried to pass it along without taking one, and Uncle Dan was right across the table. He goes, "Huffman, you didn't get a pickled pig's foot there." Chris was like, "Oh, I missed it. Sorry."
I don't think he ever used my first name one time
Excuse
ever
me.
in my
It's
whole
Funny
life.
how they all just called him Huffman.
Yeah.
Not all, but several people.
Well, it was Sad or Daw. Daw baby.
Oh, dog, baby. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Uncle Dan always scared me. always. I remember one time, it seemed like nobody was around and the cows were out. And I don't know, they went somewhere and he happened to drive up and he goes, "Well, you damn fool!" I'm like, "What? You called me what?" Oh,
He got
Well, he-
after me for sneezing incorrectly.
He,
I was just like,
There's a correct way to sneeze.
how dare you?
Don't hold it in. You don't hold it
Oh.
in. I sneezed politely.
Kate does that too. The
Yeah,
little
yeah,
kind of,
just
right.
sneezed politely.
Yeah.
He got after me. Don't do that. You're gonna blow your brains out. You gotta just let it go. Let it out. Loud and clear.
Well, his sneezes scared my sister Dana half.
Oh, you
Oh,
can hear him
yeah.
across the house.
He took great pleasure in
High
that.
volume.
He'd let go of the sneeze, and poor Dana just.
yeah.
Tim takes after Uncle Dan. He'll let one loose and the cat's laying on my lap and I've got cat tracks across my legs.
Yeah.
Shoots that cat right out.
Well, Dan, I hope yours did better than mine. Because I ran out
Oh,
and then I
there
ran
is
out
a little
this,
red.
so-
It's still going. The little red thing tells us how long we've been going.
Good,
Oh, okay.
good. But yeah, I'm so glad y'all came. And it was,
Well,
this
this
was
was
fun.
fun.
We
This
can
was
do
fun.
it again sometime.
We will.
We should. Yeah.
So,
But Tim was always the cat guy too. You know, he had from forever naming cats and
Herman.
handling cats. Yeah, Herman and Puddin' and
Barabbas.
Catsius Ali and Muhammad Ali cat.
What was the one in the barn with the teeth that came out the side?
Rufus.
Rufus.
Rufus, yeah.
Oh,
She was a female cat, but she was the honoriest cat I think we ever had.
poor Charlie Craig came in there one day and I'm milking and Rufus is sitting there and he steps on and he reaches down to pet Rufus
Oops.
and he was bleeding like crazy. I mean, she just ripped him up.
I didn't touch Rufus. I just
Oh,
got
nice
out of
cat,
Rufus's
right?
way.
Of course, when she did it, he jerked his hand back, and of course she's
Oh,
got him. And,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Open mouth out.
But isn't Rufus the one that you threw the other cats at?
Rufus would be, well, they threw that one football player in jail for cockfighting, and we did it. We were as bad as him because we'd be.
Well,
in
you
the-
weren't betting on it though.
we didn't bet on it. What difference does that make? The cat still getting ripped up. We had Rufus was so ornery, and she'd be on the
Ledge
kind of the ledge there that's in between the two sides of the barn, and you could pick up a cat, any cat, and just throw it at Rufus, and she'd catch it in midair and just thump the snot out. And we used to get the biggest kick out of that. Hey, want to see a trick?
Then there was Barabbas.
Yeah.
Barabbas, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Now, was Barabbas the one who rode your dad's shoulder? Or was that somebody
I think
else?
that was Puddin'. I don't know which the one.
Barabbas rode around on Tim's shoulder.
Yeah, he'd ride on my shoulder.
Everybody else had more sense than to put Barabbas on their
Yeah,
shoulder.
he was nasty.
His ears were all gnawed off.
Well, you give a cat his ears and then roll over and get him by the throat.
Kip got pretty mad at me because Julie had painted me for my birthday. She had gotten to where she was painting me stuff, different things. I got a bobcat because I was a Montana State I went to school there. I got Barabbas. I got Grandpa Hoblet.
Yeah.
I've got some really special things.
Mhm.
Kip came over one day and he says, "You know, I want to talk to you. We need to make some. We want to make some copies of these things and get them out there." And I said, "Nope, I'm not doing that." And he says, "Well, Julie painted them." I says, "I know she painted them, and that's why I'm saying no." I says, "She painted them for me, for my birthday. I don't want to go everywhere else and see them everywhere else, anywhere else." I says, "I want them to be
Mine.
yeah."
Yeah.
As bad as that sounds, I want it to be mine. And he did not appreciate that at all.
And they're more valuable because of it.
Yeah.
you
So
know,
they're
one
one of a kind thing, and when people
That's
come
right.
and they'll gravitate over and they say, "Well, who's this?" And I'll say, "That's Great Grandpa Hoblet, and that's my sister painted
Well,
that."
she
Well,
did that one for
I admit
that
I
lady.
wouldn't mind having a copy of that one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well,
pretty
don't
good.
ask. You already
The,
know
uh,
the answer.
The camera on
Yeah.
your cell phone is so good now. If you
Just
take,
take
a
a
picture of the
You're
picture,
well welcome to take
I'll just take it down if you come over so you don't have to see it anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, I love that one. And
That's a
Yeah.
great
her
It is a
hand,
great
the job she did on his hands.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's one of my
Well,
favorite
she
ones
had,
she's ever
had
done.
come and sat with Grandpa Spencer and studied Grandpa Spencer's hands
And
so
use them
that
as
she
a
could
model.
use that as a
Oh.
model.
She did really a good job on that one.
Yeah, that one's, the detail on it is,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
well, and it's off a photograph, and I don't know whatever happened to that photograph.
Yeah, I don't know either. I
There's
think
there's
Julie
a
might have
photo
it.
that,
It's somewhere.
Well, we were looking through some old photo albums that we found, and we found where the photo had been, and then there was another one that was kind of similar, but not that one. That one was gone. They'd taken it out to use for that, and it never got put back.
that's too bad. That was a treasure of a picture.
It's probably in an envelope.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
someone.
In the bottom of a box.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody ever sees it again, they'll go, that's interesting. Who's that, I wonder?
Have we wore you out completely?
No, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Okay. Thanks for.
Are you doing okay in that chair?
Yeah, I'm
Do you
doing
need
fine.
this soft chair?
No, I'm good.
Have it if you-
See, we just got my heat coming again.
Yeah.
That sounds good. That's,
That stove is a wonder to me.
So, turn it
Yeah.
down to-
I don't think I've ever seen a stove last as long or
Yeah.
start up as easy as that one.
It's pretty good. Who is that? Was that Jeremy who was talking about our stove?
Yeah.
Or maybe, anyway, that is one of the best stoves. We've had it forever. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, we have.
Well, and they're out in that Washington country where the wood's all wet all the time.
Oh,
And you getting a fire started over there is just tough.
yeah.
Just
Well,
really, really tough.
It's so valuable to have a heat like that in case, the electricity goes off or
Well, yeah.
you have
Right.
no power, and
Yeah.
everyone should really have one. I've always often wondered. We were always going to put one down in our basement, a little one like that, and in the corner there, and we never
Well,
we
did.
never built a chimney.
That's the hard
I
part.
thought we built an
found
outlet
even
though.
with this year, we've got the other heat, and it does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do
Not
the
the
thing
same.
where he sits next to it and
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
What
gets
he
that
needs,
really-
what he needs right now is
Yeah.
what he's got.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have that
You
heat.
know, I've kind of taken the people will say, well, why don't you have wood heat? And I say, well, when Dad got natural gas and put it in his house, he celebrated like crazy because
Yeah.
he says he's milking cows and chores and all of that. The last thing you
Get
need to
wood
do.
on top of it.
Sure.
It wasn't recreation for him.
No.
It wasn't.
No,
And he
it's a
says
chore.
I could go in and I could turn the thermostat where I wanted it, and that
Stand over
was-
the top of that furnace and
Well, and when we were
Mhm.
kids, we were before the upstairs got remodeled, and maybe even after, because it's cold in the upstairs. There's no heat system up there. I know I would get in the wintertime. I'd get to where I'd figure out what I was going to wear the next day at school, and I'd take it and I'd set it close to the
furnace.
to the furnace, and then we'd go running out there, and I think all three of us would do that in our little whitey tidies and park our butts right on that heater until our little squares on her.
All of us had scored greats on our
No.
butts.
Yeah,
We all dried our hair over that furnace.
yeah.
When we were
When we
really
had
young,
hair.
there was a wood stove right where that furnace is.
I
Oh,
know.
really?
I don't
It was a
remember
wood
that.
stove that had it was kind of an ornamental face to it, and it had squirrels, and Bruce got hot enough that it burned him, and he had on his bum, he backed up to it,
ouch.
had a nice brand on his bum of the squirrels there when he was,
Oh.
that's how close it branded him.
Well, we sure like ours. I hate messing with the wood, but
It just spits out an altogether
It's-
different heat.
It is.
Yeah,
I
it's
have to admit
just
that
different.
there's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
quite like wood heat when it comes to.
Yeah, we always
Thawing
had wood
somebody out.
stove. It was good.
Is that
When
is
you
that
were growing
stove
up.
one of the ones that was made in Corvallis by that guy?
No, this is Swanson Distributing, and it was made in Vermont.
Oh, was it?
Vermont Stove.
Vermont Iron Stove Works.
Yeah, because there was somebody.
That was
Ennin.
Ennin.
And
Yeah.
stoves.
Yeah, and those were supposed to be really good stoves.
Yeah,
'cause-
Steve had one, didn't
They did make
he? He
good
had an
stoves.
insert,
I
yeah.
think so. I remember the name.
It went from a fireplace to a fireplace insert, and it was an Ennin stove.
Ours is made by a family over in Idaho, Kuma,
Uh-huh.
and it's totally family run, but they're sending stoves all over the world, I guess.
Cool.
It's
It's a good
it's
stove.
quite a stove.
Danny, do
It's-
you want to start that?
Yeah, do you want to shut it off? We can shut it off.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let us know when
It's
you're up
been
to it
great.
again. I think we didn't even get halfway done.
Didn't scratch